Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duelist Event Network. We're going to be doing the PSN October Major for North America and Europe. We have our first set of contestants in. Nibri on the left, Veggie on the right. Joined with me here is going to be Enda. Enda, how's it going?
Oh, I'm really excited for this one, LB, and I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, it should be an excellent showing here on the side of all of our contestants, and I believe we have both of our contestants in here and ready. Nibri, who is going to be on the left, and Veggie Georgie, who's going to be on the right. LB on a 3 and a 2 and a 1. LA.
There is our bolt-in. Our first match of round 1 is underway. We are going to see the Black Flame Protection coming out from Nibri on those coded swords. The Storm Stomp into it from the HTS. Those will be 299 damage, chained it into 522. The jump comes out for 592, though. Chains it into a roll catch for 1094. Trying to get away from them now. You see him just kind of sitting in crouch, waiting for something to happen. We are going to see a reset to neutral. Nibri is going to get the flask out and the running attack off the HTS. The L1 from Nibri pushes him in the corner here. Up against the edge, though. The katana comes out, but he's going to get the Spin Slash off. Extremely low health. Is he able to pull this one back? I'm not sure.
He's very, very low now. He's going to have to play this one super safe, LB. We see the bestial slings coming out here, which are going to do a considerable amount of keep away here as he goes for the trade, and that's all she wrote with Nibri taking the win in this one, LB.
Yeah, I mean, that swap to Bestial Sling is just so good when you really need to chip somebody down. One of the things that I really like about Nibri there is his pressure off of that HTS with those coded. So, you know, Nibri gets put in the corner, he eats some damage from the HTS, but Veggie kind of backs up and allows him to get that pressure, that counter pressure in. And that's going to allow Nibri to get that roll catch. And the roll catch on coded, as we see, does so much damage. He takes a bad trade into Storm Stomp, and immediately after that, you know, he's able to find the roll catch and the counter pressure. So really good situational awareness comes out from Nibri there to keep Veggie on the back foot after that Storm Stomp comes out. And that's something that a lot of players struggle with. That Storm Stomp is so, you know, oppressive when you're right there in their face. And Nibri did a really good job of playing off of that.
Yeah, and a really, really solid job here. You know, people are talking an awful lot about how strong HTS, but we've seen it there. There was the Bestial Sling there at the end that really did some work. And again, I'm not sure if the swap to the Kiba was necessarily the smartest idea, but you know, unfortunately, just wasn't able to get the damage in on the wind up. And you know, Nibri takes that first round in a very, very commanding lead. And I have to say, very GGs to him. You know.
Absolutely. That's one of the things with power stance straight swords as a whole, but even more so with codeds, with those high AR, that pure holy damage, is you get a lot of ramp up. You know, you get that Millicent thesis rather. You get that Rotten Wing and Insignia. You know, you can get that Swaddling Cloth, and all those are going to offer ramp up for either, you know, offensive or defensive things. And especially with Rotten and, you know, Prosthesis, you're going to get a lot of damage off of that. So when he switches, you know, takes the time to swap over to that katana, it's allowing Nibri to get more procs on, get more damage ramping, and it's going to allow him to win that trade against, you know, that spin slash. Spin slash on Kiva is quite useful, but there's like I said, a lot of things that you kind of have to be worrisome about when you're going up against those power stance straight swords, and that ramp up is definitely noticeable. Yeah,
the power stance straight swords just has it's such a powerful low commitment attack with those jump L1s that you have to be aware of it. You just have to constantly be cognizant of where they are. Can you force them out of position, which is one of the biggest weaknesses of if you're in a bad position on dual SS. Yes, you do have stronger Ashes of War to have to contend with, and the fact that when you're uncoded you don't have access to any Ash of War at all, so to speak of it. I know you do have you do have a Ash of War, but perhaps not a particularly strong one. So we might end up seeing here a swap to at least one of the nobles here, which is of course something an awful lot of players do, that can give them access to some strong tools. You know, a Beast Roar or something like that can be really strong to kind of punish that neutral, someone who's far too keen to stay in neutral for too long. So that can be something that we may see come out here, but remains to be seen. Again, it is 1-0 and a best of 3 to the side of Nibri, so I'm going to be super curious as to how Georgie is going to adapt in this next round, LB.
Yeah, exactly, and he's going to have to figure out something. You know, the HTS is something that can be played against straight swords. The biggest issue that you lack is is you lack a really strong neutral aggression outside of that running R2, which, as we've talked about in the past, is something that is very reactable and you are able to get away from it. So you have to rely on those mix-ups with positioning, your zoning, and to allow those roll catches to come through. And if Nibri isn't going to aggress into him, it gets very tricky for Georgie to figure out how to play around that. But we do have both of our contestants in. Nibri with the lead 1-0 on the left over Georgie on the right. And if you can give me the honors.
Ladies and gentlemen, on a 3 and a 2 and a 1, round 2 of this best of 3. Ali.
And there goes the bolt. So again, we are going to see the flask traded for the black flame protection, and actually immediately going over to get the flask as well. And no punish comes out from the side of Georgie. Is going to get that bistro out, though. We do see the single coated and the slender, as you did predict. It actually goes back over to the coated there, realizing he does not need a specific Asher Ward to handle the power stance key. Oh no, he is going to try to get away from that, but the good damage comes in. 810, the ramp up is coming there. The trade comes out for poise priority, but really good jump. Oh my goodness. Georgie takes the jump there, does a really good job of it, and just doesn't use it. Very interesting.
He may have read that he was going to get a roll on and may have tried to set up for a running attack out of it. The katana running attack, running R2, I believe it is a really solid poke. It is able to get those chase downs. Kind of reminds me an awful lot of a halberd running R1, the katana running R2. But in that situation, just was the wrong thing, especially when someone has dual coded and is in your face. You kind of want to get your damage in while you can, because if every time they're going to hit you, they're going to take 500-600 damage off of you easy. Sure. And as we've seen there, Nibri did an absolutely fantastic job of just bursting his opponent down, getting good damage in early, forcing opponents on the back foot, and then just going to town and just playing really, really the way he's supposed to, pretty much. Really, really solid play on the side of Nibri. Really, really solid play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nibri just did a really good job of showcasing the power of the power stance straight sword, specifically coded. Again, you see a lot of that build-up coming through with that setup. You get a good amount of build-up that can lead to that more damage, that leads to that burst damage with that backswing, and that's what we saw there. Unfortunately, Veggie went for the trades and things that he really shouldn't have. I'm curious why he decided to two-hand the Kiba. Power stance Kibas are definitely they're definitely off meta, but they're a very close off meta, right? Like you have a really good jump attack, you have access to a lot of really good Asher Wards that synergize with those exceptionally well, and we saw him switch over to the two-hand and then actually jumped with the two-hand instead of going for that jump L1, which is so strong on the Kibas. So I'm not sure, maybe there was just he wasn't mentally prepared for the fight or something along those lines, but I mean that was a clear lead for Nibri through.
Very clear. Again, there may have been a specific Ash of War that he was trying to go for. He was trying to get a setup for something, maybe a spin slash is very popular in the Kiba. Obviously, Unsheath is incredibly strong on Kiba as well. So that could have perhaps been what he was going for, but maybe just caught off guard. Maybe he didn't expect to be two-handing, tried to go for off two-hand, but the input might have been dropped. It's hard to know. Maybe it was just a fat finger moment. It happens to, unfortunately, the very best of us when we're in those situations, especially in a high stress like a tournament with the prize pool that it does have, that can definitely throw people off. And I'd be curious now, we're looking at this next round, Tempestuous Atmosphere is someone who I've seen a couple of times who's played very well. I believe they were a Hallstock player in one of the previous festival combats, and just a fool is someone I'm not quite aware of. So this is going to be a fun matchup to see how this one is going to pan out. I'm going to be super curious in this one. Should be super, super interesting.
Yeah, and Tempest is somebody that's been through a couple of these tournaments, and so is Fool, and they definitely have a really good synergy with the weapons and the things that they use, and I'm really excited to see them actually head to head here and see which direction this is going to go. There's a lot of options that both of these players have access to, and they've definitely both proven their ability in tournaments past.
And I mean, to get into this, just as a clarifying thing, you have to be one of the top players in the leaderboard in order to get access to these tournaments, and anyone who does make it in here has definitely proven themselves. It's very competitive on the leaderboard, and the rule set I think that you've done over the last while has been incredibly strong at bringing out the real skill based matchup rather than the setup based matchups. So it's going to be super, super interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely. Looks like we are working on getting them in right now. So it looks like we do see that Herodis helmet. And the very cool thing about that is that's going to offer you intelligence and endurance. And most of the time when people are using that, you're utilizing some type of intelligence build. And it looks like that's a crystal rot sword in the main hand. And I'm guessing will be in the offhand as well. So, oh, actually, no, that is not a crystal rot sword. Interestingly enough, that is the I can't think of the name of the curve sword off the top of my head, but it looks like he also has a catalyst in the offhand, so we might be able to see some R2 slicer shenanigans.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as well. I imagine what he's going to do is going to have a punish at the start, maybe a spiral serpent to allow him to get his buffs off without any bit of harassment early game. That is a strategy that you can use. You also have the ability to pressure right off the gate, sorry, and dual straight swords, I have a feeling, is going to come out, and that is seemingly what his opponent is going to be using it. Dual slender nobles by the looks of things.
Yeah, slender nobles are actually a really solid option for the straight swords, and that's something that I'm guessing, based on some of the times we've got to see just a full fight, he is going to have those cold infused, and they do rather well on the cold infusion. Any type of power stance weapon does give you really good options, on those infusions. But looks like both of them are in. Just a fool on the left on the power stance straight swords. The mage curve sword of Tempest on the right, and in 3, 2, 1, Ale.
We do see the bolt go out, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to see the immediate pressure from both of them here. Not going to go for the buff, although we do see the flask finally coming out on Fool, who is going to continue to pressure here. Right afterwards, Tempestuous has decided not to buff. We do see the Slenders coming out here getting that good damage. The R2s on the side of Tempestuous here to try and keep him at bay, but it's going to remain to be seen as these dual straight swords are going to go for these L1s, not able to connect. Oh, we see the R2 managed to connect. Their Fool is going to have to be really careful on that approach, as we do see a trade of swords coming out here. He is going to take that damage. Slightly interesting there. Might have been a beast roar there to try and introduce the interrupt.
There's a little bit of connection between these players. I guess that is what you get with North America to Europe. But Wing of Estelle is the name of that curve sword. It took me a second to get that, but there we go. So very interesting, to say the least, is that one. We'll have to see how the next match plays out. It looks like it was more of an issue on Atmosphere's side, but I'm not quite sure.
Well, we will soon have clarification on that, but again, it's not something that I would expect. Kind of going for those those pokes from neutral are very, very handy to have. So when I talk about a neutral poke, what I mean is both players are sitting in a neutral position. With their melee setups, they're not able to actually hit each other. They're not in the spacing to be able to do it, and they're not able to pressure each other either due to a choice that they've both made, or maybe it's just that they're not confident on it. And what we found there is Tempestuous would sit back and just poke, trying to bait his opponent in. I would imagine he was baiting with Slicer, or perhaps maybe using the spinning weapon to try and, slowly get that poise chip and then get, in some cases, insane amounts of damage with the spinning weapon here. But I'm doubtful that was necessarily the play. I'd imagine it was Slicer in his back pocket there, waiting to try and get some really solid damage in. That's what I imagine all of that setup was for. But we've seen those R2s, even from a distance, were able to get that poise break as well. So a really curious match. Hopefully our connection issues are not going to be an issue moving forward.
I actually did take some time to take a look at what the contestants are saying, and there was a very quick, easy fix that Tempest is able to do to correct that. You are looking at, Eastern Europe to Western United States. And that is going to be quite a good chunk of latency, especially if players aren't, really doing things to maximize their quality of their internet.
Yeah, for sure.
But it looks like Tempest had a few things he could do. He's going to do that really quick. So it might take a few more seconds to get him in, but it should be a much cleaner fight. And it's, unfortunately, no, Tempest was having some internet issues. It won't hinder Just a Fool, as he was able to pick that round up. So we are looking at our match point against Tempest. Hopefully he has figured out that issue with his connection and he can be a little bit more stable moving through this. But the Wing of Estelle, as he mentioned in things like Slicer and stuff, I'm sure we have Slicer in the back pocket there. Slicer is just so good to a lot of these things. So it'll be really, really interesting to see now that he's able to play fully how it's going to work out. Yeah,
and again, having the ability to just kind of keep your opponent pressured all the way across the board. We've seen it in previous games. It kind of broke them a little. You didn't have good aggression tools. You weren't able to pressure, and they could just punish you so easily. But with poise and with other such things, it really allows those setups to kind of to be, number one, usable and number 2, have solid counterplay against them. You know, he just needs to pressure. He needs to go for those jump L1s to try and keep Tempestuous at bay. And, you know, we'll just slowly have to see how we go in this next round, as we do have both of our contestants in. Ladies and gentlemen, LB, are you ready?
I'm all set.
On a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Allez.
Here comes the bull into there. We are going to see an immediate Beast Roar comes out to punish, and actually is able to manage to punish the caster. There's the Flask, gets 2 Beast Roars in on the side, but that little bit of magic is going to come through. 381 damage, trying to throw these shards out. Actually gets the Poise Break on it. 185 to get that out. The Fan Dagger's coming in. The R2 off the Estelle, trying to get this the Beast Roar trade. 312 to 346. Beast Roar is not going to be in favor, but a lot of damage comes off of those straight swords. But now each of these players are relatively equal in terms of health, throwing out these Glintstone shards, trying to get this damage in as much as possible. The chain jump attacks off PSS as such a good way to keep pressure. But the charged R2 comes out, nearly catches him, 505 damage where the jump comes through with the cold proc.
Oh my word.
Pulling it back in a 2-0 victory.
2-0, and really, really showing that like those power stance straight swords cannot be held at bay. Is decided just to fool. You know, if he's able to get in, he's able to get good damage. He's able to constantly chip his opponent down. You can see the frost proc there, I think, at the very end. Correct. That was a deciding factor there in that. Did we see Tempestuous managed to get his Flask off, didn't he? I believe he did.
Yeah, he did. He got it off at the sake of trading 2 of the Beast Roars. So by trading the 2 Beast Roars, he did get that off. And, you know, I'm not sure if... Was that a kill through Tears with the Frost proc?
I believe it was. I'm not sure if we've seen
so I
Tears
guess it probably
proc
was
at
a
all.
net negative for him to take that, because if he had not taken that Beast Roar damage, he probably would have killed Just a Fool in that little bit of an encounter, having that jump attack not killing him. So Cold, as again we mentioned, Just a Fool was going to be on that Cold setup with those straight swords. So definitely something that is worth taking a look at and respecting, because that cold damage is just so quickly to build up. Yep. And if you're able to get them to stand in the proc and they aren't going to roll that damage, that is a lot of burst damage. Yep. I mean, you saw it right there. The jump attack is already borderline nuclear on the power stance straight swords, and now you're adding in that big burst damage with them. You see 800 damage jump attack is enough to kill through Tears. It is enough to create those issues. So we'll have to see how Tempest is able to pull this back in the losers bracket. I'm really curious to see how he does, actually, because he has a very unique build. The charged R2 off of Estelle can be very tricky to get around, because you can change exactly when you are releasing that R2, and that can definitely mix people up, and it can cause for really interesting roll catches, especially changing the mage build that he has. So I'm really excited to see him come back around. We are going to see Slave Knight Cost and Alucard are going to be coming in now. Slave Knight Cost, very known for running that Arcane Halberd, that status build, that sleep poison, things along those lines. And as we can see by the fashion of Alucard in a little bit of a glimpse that we got, and we can see it now, he is ready to fight status. He does have the power stance Slenders out as well. I believe those are Slenders. Those are Clean Rots. That's Clean Rot Moonveil. My apologies. So Clean Rot Moonveil, a very interesting setup to say the least. It's a lot of fun to use. It can create a lot of different frame catches, and it looks like both of our contestants are in it.
Ladies and gentlemen, on a 3 and a 2 and a 1, Slave Knight Cost in the far corner, Alucard in the near. LA.
So there is our bolt. I'm curious if we're going to see a Flask coming out from Alucard, and it looks like we are. He is going to be sleep on the side of Koss here, and Alucard, I'm sure, is using that tier to boost his status. Was unable to get the buff, though, but that's okay. I'm sure we're talismaned up and ready to go. There's a Moonveil from neutral. We do see the reaction roll coming out from the side of Slave. A couple of rolls coming in, trading on green side. 283 damage, trap attack. 281 comes in. Roll catch and keeps it coming in. So 283. 294 was traded out into 596 on the side of Koss. Sleep buff has been built up, yes. So 283 on the run attack, though. That sleep bar's got to be getting there. There's a running attack. 283. He's got to get away from it.
Oh, his tear's gone, and that's.
And he puts it in. What are you doing? He gets ruined. 570 damage in the trade. No FP, though, as the sleep is going to remove that. 283 damage off the side of the halberd, going over the heavy thrusting door now, throwing out the jump attack, goes for the jump R1, into the back swing, able to land at the running attack off the halberd. The storm stomp, no FP, though, unable to catch it. As we do see that running attack is going to catch it. 271 damage. Slave Knight Cost takes a 1-0.
Oh my word. Oh my word. What a round. That's what you get for trying to style on your opponent. That is what you get. And we've seen it there. Like, tries to go for that unendurable frenzy, tries to force a panic roll in that one, but he just ended up getting interrupted, and then, It could have gone either way in that one, LB. It could have gone either way, but again, Slave Knight Cost played incredibly well all the way through that, keeping that pressure all the way across, trying to keep on top of his opponent, and Alucard managed to do pretty well all the way through that. All things considered, that could have gone one way. That could have gone one way quite badly, but what a match! What a series of events, and that's what these tournaments are all about. Sometimes there has to be a little bit of excitement, and oh my word.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that's really interesting, to say the least, when you're looking at that. Is the status on Halberd is definitely something that's worth considering and worth taking a peek at. But where it can become a little bit tricky is we saw the sleep actually didn't really play much of a help for him there, considering everything. The only thing it really helped him with was removing that FP. So it's really interesting, and how that works out. The damage wasn't even there from the sleep. It took a lot to get the sleep build up, but then the negative FP that you're going to get from going into sleep did cost Alucard that match. So he went for a Moonveil, went for a Storm Stomp, and wasn't able to get it. So I'm curious if we're going to see Cost stay on sleep or maybe switch it up to poison.
Yeah, it will remain to be seen, as the score is, of course, 1-0 on the side of Cost, who again on that did incredibly well. But ladies and gentlemen, we do have both of our contestants in for round 2 of this best of 3 on a 3 and a 2 and a 1. LA. Out comes the bolt here, and we are going to see both players going for their physic. We're seeing immediate aggression here on the side of Cost. However, he's reneging the focus, because he may have seen that he was going to get the buff off, and we do see the poison, which is going to be an incredibly smart play here. And now onto the bleed. This is a strategy we've seen across the board. Out comes the R2 managing to clip him, and of course Alucard is forced back. We see the running attack here on the heavy thrusting, but not able to make it back onto the Moonveil again. Has to go for that trade, not able to make it that time, as he is going to get that interrupt. And of course the Halberd immediate poise break here on the Moonveil is going to be incredibly powerful. Out comes the trade here. No, doesn't manage to get it yet again. 200 damage. He's going to be so low. He has just a very limited amount of time. You see the runaway. He's going to be on the edge here. If he's not able to get a little bit of space to get the ballast off, he is going to be dead. Does he even know he's poisoned? No, he's not able to do it. Oh, poison is so strong in these matches, LB. It could be incredibly painful, and that Slave Knight Cost taking this in a 2-0 sweep against Alucard. What are your thoughts, man?
So what's really interesting to me in that whole setup is I actually think that the status, the arcane build that Slave Knight is running, you see the Halberd attacks aren't doing that much damage. If he was on, like, let's say a pure strength build, or maybe some type of cold build or something, I actually think he would have won a little bit quicker and a little bit cleaner, because his Halberd play was what really was the difference between him and Alucard there. Yeah, that poison does a lot. There's no doubt there that the poison build-up was definitely pressure for Alucard to be aware of. But as I mentioned, you can see him actually swapping off of sleep. He goes over to poison because, one, that status is going to be hard to build up when Alucard is taking the measures to negate that. But in addition to that, he's doing most of his damage with the Halberd. He's not really phantom hitting much, Both of these players are North America West. I actually took the time in between the last round to go take a look and see, what region specifically they were from. They're both North America West, which means that they're going to have relatively about 60 ping at most between the two of them, which means that those phantom hits, while they exist, are definitely not something that's as noticeable and as much of an issue or hindrance as North America East to all the way down to the far west side of North America or something along those lines, or maybe Russia to the southernmost parts of Europe. Are you going to have those higher latencies? So as you see him switching to poison and switching to bleed actually near the end, realizing that the damage that he's getting is actually going to come from that Halberd, and less likely he's going to get that damage from the status. So it's a really good play from Cost there to actually switch that up a little bit and make those adjustments. But moving forward, we will see Rascals and Dreamer as well. So Rascals, very well known for that Moonveil play, has been a tournament champion of the Festival of Combat in the past. So definitely something that I'll be really excited to see. You have to refresh my memory on the builds that Dreamer uses. I want to say he's a UGS player.
From the best of my from memory, he has played Mage in the past in some of the earlier tournaments, if I recall correctly. Again, I'm afraid some of these players are a little bit off my radar, unfortunately, LB. But what I'd imagine we're going to see here, Dreamer is, of course, very well regarded as very, very strong. And this is going to be quite a match indeed, as we do have both players who have definitely shown themselves in Festival Combat tourneys before, both of them. I'm not sure if Dreamer's managed to take a win yet in one of these. However, he has come close, if memory serves me correctly. And I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people who are going to be rooting for him in this one.
And one thing that I will point out, our wonderful recorder today, Mr. KH Knight, did show us that it has reminded us Dreamer used Uggs against Whitnake. I think that's where I'm getting that memory of Uggs.
Yes.
It was like Ruins or something like that. Was used against Whitnake. So yeah, so again, Dreamer is somebody that has played these tournaments a lot, as you mentioned, and UGS is just so strong right now, even with those 49 poise restrictions. However, one thing that Rascals does have going for him is he has a 2-hit poise break with the offhand and a single hit poise break with the main hand before he even uses his Ash of War. So, and of course, Moonveil Ash of War mix-ups are very good. It's not a very easy thing to react, especially if you're point blank range. Point blank range is borderline reactable.
There's the runes.
Get to that mid range. That's when those reactions are realistic, and we'll have to see if Dreamer is going to do that. However, he's using a very short Uggs ended, so it's going to be very tricky for him to find that perfect momentum in terms of space.
Has to force a neutral game and then play off hit stun. That's going to be his game. But ladies and gentlemen, Rascals in the far corner, Dreamer in the near, in round 1 in this best of 3. On a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Ali. We are going to see the bolt here, ladies and gentlemen, as we are going to see the physic taken by both players. Dreamer is taking the aggression right off the bat, getting a little bit of glintstone scraped as he comes in here. However, we are going to see the Moonveil shield here, which is going to be very powerful. Whiffs that hit, manages to get the damage in. However, Rascals is relentless, staying in closest to Dreamer, keeps up the aggression, staying in that middle section, trying to find the perfect spacing to be able to pressure any mistakes that Rascal is going to make here as he goes in. We do see it seems to be a mistake that R1, I guarantee you, was meaning that to be a crouch poke, as we do see Rascals strafing those attacks here, keeping that aggression, trying to punish any attempt here to R1, and we see Rascals getting priority, what seems to be after that. Manages to get
guard break,
625, immediately gets the wake up here. Stuck in the corner is the side of Rascals, manages to get out. Dreamer shouldn't have let him out, LB.
Really good positioning there from Rascals, actually. So you see the crouch cancel coming in. Now, crouch cancel does have the ability to break the Moonveil. Goes going to swap to the S-Stock, throws up the Ash of War there, and immediately back to the shield. And that shield is going to be a safe option against him. He goes for the backstab. That block is going to be there. Block cancel is just so noticeable in this game. But Rascals blocked the crouch cancel attack and chose to attack after, which is very good sense of game knowledge there. A very good read on Dreamer, understanding what Dreamer's been doing. Now, you see him going for these strafes, try to get around as much as possible with this shield, and it is tricky to get around it, though it is possible. You do see him whipping the backstab there earlier, but there's 2 R1s coming in. 548, but there's the roll. 518, the crouch cancel comes in with the lock is right there, trying to keep it now. We'll see if Dreamer's going to stay on this UGS to get this last little bit of chip damage. The blue feather comes out, the 1 damage through chip, as again, I don't know if UGS is the play when they're quite this low, but he's trying to keep it as the R1's coming out now, trying to keep the pressure forward. It is going to be the side of Rascals here. Rascals is going to just kind of sit back, hide behind that shield, get some regen as these pokes are just coming through from Dreamer, and Dreamer is just attacking against a wall right now, and he's not having a good time of actually spacing out and trying to force these trades. Good roll on the bleed, though. Oh, almost finds the roll catch, but almost finds the counter. There's the tear pop, though. 327 damage is what... Sorry, 327 damage is what came through. Now, half of Dreamer's health is what is left from the side of Rascals. Good opportunity on the Moonveil. Goes for the roll catch and able to land it. Right idea, though. 6 more chip damage. You see, the chip damage just really isn't there. He's trying to set up for trades. Able to strafe, but actually does get caught there. The running attack comes in for 8 damage, and then the bleed proc, 331. He's got to be careful here, and he's so terribly low. And it looks like we may have had a disconnect there. So... it is unfortunate. I think that would be in, I would say, clear favor of Rascals, actually, with the region that he was able to get and the health on Dreamer. I think that will be a 1-0 in favor of Rascals.
No, 1-0 in favor of Rascals. A really, really solid, really solid attempt here is the side of Rascals here. Having the ability there to R1 almost with impunity after those blocks and really shut down his opponent's aggression. Really solid stuff, and I have to say Rascal played that absolutely exceptionally well. And looking at it here, moving forward, it's going to be pretty interesting all the way across here, because You know, Rascals does have that priority, but he has to be careful when he attacks from neutral. We may end up seeing a switch here on the side of Dreamer. I'm not sure. As you pointed out, I'm not sure if the Colossal Sword is going to be the play here. True, if it can get a Vortex out, it's going to be fantastic. But he's not able to get those Vortexes again. After a roll, Rascals can just block, and he can just chill behind that as long as it takes until he gets the perfect opportunity and just R1 out of the block, and away he can go. So it'll remain to be seen how this next round is going to go. I'd imagine we'll see a switch though from Dreamer. I'd be shocked if we don't.
And here's the tricky thing, Enda, is that the Great Sword, or sorry, the Colossal Sword rather, is actually able to have a winning matchup against the Great Shield Turtle. The difference is that you can't just attack into them, right?
Yeah.
Because the way Hyper Armor and things work, you have to be able to either take trades, which we saw Dreamer do and did a really good job of throughout parts of that match. The other thing that you have to do is just constantly get away from them and force them to attack you. If you're able to create that distance and force them to come to you and force them to attack you and not just throw your attack against their shield, that's kind of your win condition. In addition to that, you do have the ability to crouch cancel some of the time and get that damage in some of the time, but it's not... The more realistic option is to just play it a little bit slower, sit back, not allow yourself to get cornered, right? Be able to, if you run towards them and they're going to hold their shield, that means you can just get away from them and react against their counterattack, and just kind of constantly play that neutral until they get a little bit, lackadaisical with that and start to attack into you, and that's when you can kind of find that pressure. We saw, Dreamer did a really good job of keeping Rascal really, really low throughout that fight, and actually played that relatively well. He just got a little bit too antsy near the end. I think if you were to see a swap, it would have been nice to see him switch to something near the end. He's on a strength intelligence build. That means he has access to cold. That means he has access to even magic if he wanted to, specifically for chip. He can switch to something like a two-handed clean rot with that cold infusion and just play off of the chip damage status, or he can just use that magic and just play off pure chip damage. Though it's going to be low, it's going to be more than the 1 to 6 damage he was getting on that Colossal.
Yeah, and that small little bit of chip, especially there towards the end, just was not worth it at all. Like 1 or 2 damage, especially when you have the ability to regen, not only with the Blessed Dew Talisman but also with the piece of Royal Remains. Not sure if we've seen a swap to Royal Remains there in that last match, but he could just he can out heal, he can out regen the DPS that Dreamer was able to do against that shield come the end, and that's not a winning matchup makes, unfortunately. So we'll just have to see moving forward. And playing that patient game, it can be quite frustrating, especially when that person has the ability to regen. It can be quite frustrating for you to have to sit back and kind of really focus on looking to not only make those opportunities but take advantage of them. It can be quite stressful because Rascals does have a poise break in this as well. But ladies and gentlemen, we do have both of our players in. Rascals on the left, Dreamer on the right. On a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Ale?
So there is that bolt in. Our match is underway. We will see the flasks traded out, and then immediately into the Glintstone Scraps and flipping over to grab that Gray Shield is going to be the side of Rascals. 58 chip damage comes through on the Dreamer. That chip damage could be very useful near the end of this match. We'll see how he's able to continue this forward, as there's those neutral pokes in and rolls out and gets away from the punish. So very interesting back and forth that we'll see throughout this round.
Yeah, I have a feeling as well what he's going to have to be keeping an eye on, because I'm not sure if Rascals has any benefit to the...
Great spacing comes out. There's the Vortex now coming in. He's trying to wave dash into him to force that roll, but Rascals is a little bit too wise for that. So huge trade comes in, 679 to 675 there off the chip damage. So now Dreamer has that sizable health advantage. He can afford to sit back a little bit, but he is going to get a little bit aggressive in this. That health damage is not going to be in. He's got to be careful. He gets caught in a Moonveil here. He could be the end of him here, but goes for the jump. The bleed proc, 651 damage. Oh no, and he had an MDS now coming in 175. Goes for the counter, but there it is, the Vortex. He's trying to land it down. The shield immediately comes out from the side of Dreamer. There's going to be that R1 looking for the way to pressure. Is trying to get away. The R1 from neutral is not going to find the roll. 43 damage remaining from Dreamer, and that's going to be Rascals taking this in a 2-0.
Oh my word. What a round. I think some really solid trades there on the side of Dreamer. He found his opportunities to get in, but he just got over aggressive. The exact same thing played out in the last round, LB. He'd go for a trade. He'd get some good damage in. He'd maybe go for a Vortex after the fact, but then he'd get overly aggressive. He'd be just a little bit too enthusiastic about everything that was going on. And, trying to go for that jump against the Kiba when Kiba can knock him out of the air with one R1, a stray R1, or yeah. It's just, it's such a bad idea. Just don't jump forehead in that. Try and set up for what I can only describe as like another trade, another advantageous position for you to play off of. But, fair play to Dreamer. He did his best. Wasn't quite able to get the opportunities that he was looking for, but Rascals always there waiting in the wings. In what I would say in that setup, given the poise limit that we have, and of course the poise limit is going to be 49 on the side of the Ultra user, he has the poise break. He has the ability to do it. He just can't play it with impunity.
And you see why he's using that shield as well. As when you get into those next, the later part of that round, as Rascal pulls out the S-Stock to try to find that little bit of damage and nearly dies from it. From Dreamer able to just immediately flip it around, space the S-Stock, and get a huge counter here. You're talking about, Ruins when you're on Red Feather is right around 1100 AR, and that's going to also get pretty good counter thrust as well. It is part of the physical, so you see that big damage come through in that trade. I mean, just over half health is going to be the side of Rascals, and he's immediately down to one more hit of that, until he's dead. Yeah. Just with that simple little bit of a swap there. So we will see Markovesso versus Zawadi here. It looks like Zawadi is going to be on their known arcane build, I believe, is what we're going to see there. And Markovesso, I missed what he was using. Did you catch that, Enda?
From what he used in last tourney, he used a two-handed thrusting sword. That's claws? What he used last time. It's claws. Okay. He has a habit of playing exceptionally well with some interesting setups. So I'm actually hyped for this one, LB, as we do see Markovesso on the left, Zawadi on the right. Ladies and gentlemen, on a 3 and a 2 and a 1. This best of 3. LA. As the bolt is going to go out, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to see the physic coming out from both of them here. We are going to see the bestial sling here from neutral. Out comes Storm Stomp, goes for that catch flame. Oh, he's going to be bled. We're going to see both players here. We're seeing quick step, claws.
Oh, jump attack!
Taking it in a
Storm Stomp.
What a round! Oh my god! Literally keeps that pressure up, goes to the jump attack, and then just puts him away. LB, what a round!
Enda, there's not really much to actually commentate on there. You saw Zawadi really low poise. It's going to allow Mark to utilize those super fast weapons. He's got the quick step on there to make sure he can get away from everything pretty quickly and easily. So really well played out from the side of Marco. You saw the jump attack, and that's one thing that claws do have is a very interesting jump attack. It's very deceiving. Like a lot of the jump attacks, very deceiving on range. It can allow you to get those little cheeky jumps in, right? So I'm curious what we're going to see Zawadi come for. You saw him, he initially tried to hit that endure, but it just didn't work out. The jump attack was too much. Tries to go with the storm stomp. Didn't matter. The jump attack was too much. So I'm curious what we're going to see Zawadi try to mix up here to counter out Markovesso.
A really interesting idea, though, and that kind of both of these players are known for kind of using their kind of very interesting builds. Going for that catch flame, the dagger catch flame into storm. The storm stomp. He has a lot of tools at his disposal here, but I really don't think the light. I know he gets the advantage of the light roll here on his setup, but it's not really going to make much of a difference if he's going to get an insane amount of damage for having no absorption. It's kind of an unfortunate setup here, but we do see. We are getting both of our players in and are almost ready to go, but it's going to be another exciting one, LB, as it's Markovesso in the left corner with 1, Zawadi in the near corner, 0, 3, 2, 1, and go.
All right, so this is going to be match point against Zawadi. The bolt is in. We do see the flasks faded out from each player. The bestial sling coming out. This is going to be light roll bestial sling, but the jump attack is there to catch him. 608 goes for the running L1 there. Off the side of the claw up is the jump. Is actually able to get away from that bestial sling as well, but that one's going to catch 272 damage. It's going to come through. There's going to be a guaranteed poise break. 528 and the run attack though. Again, the little bit of chip that he can get through this and the mix-ups that he can get. That's 364 damage. He is just shredding through Zawadi here, but there's the catch flame. That's going to be tricky for him to get away from. Zawadi knows that. He uses it, gets away. There's the tier pop, 272 damage from the side of bestial sling. Goes for running attack again, 272. It seems like Zawadi has figured out the win condition, and there it is. That's going to be Markovesso falling. It's going to be a 1-1 reset in this match.
1-1 reset. And again, we've seen in the last round, Markovesso getting exactly what he was looking for. And now in this round, we see exactly the game plan of Zawadi being shown for what he can do. Again, we didn't see any dagger. We didn't see any kind of going for those poise breaks. He's going to try and interrupt him in that neutral state on the aggression. And I'd say he was on near one shot there come towards the end, LB. What do you reckon? I'd say if Zawadi took one more hit and a nasty hit that he could have taken, that could have been all that round would have been. I'm not sure. Did he get the tier pop? I'm not sure off the top of my head. We'd have to run that one back to be able to see.
He
but
did have the tier pop. The second L1, I believe, off the running attack did manage to land that. So Mark's going to have to figure something out here to actually counteract now, as Zawadi's realizing he can just sit back and utilize those faster incantations to keep Mark off, as he doesn't really have the range that a lot of other weapons would have to properly deal with that. So it's going to force him to have to take those jump attacks, have to take those running attacks. What I would like to see come out from the side of Mark here, I think if he decided to go ahead, I don't know how many claws he has, but he was using Quick Step earlier. I think maybe switching over to Storm Stomp right now would be a very tricky thing for Zawadi to get around, because now he's playing around that Quick Step. He's not spamming those attacks in the same way. But both of our contestants are in, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have Markovesso on the left, 1 to Zawadi on the right, 1. This is a true match point, and in 3, 2, 1, Hale.
And the bolt will be out, ladies and gentlemen, as we are going to see both players going for their physic here. We are going to see the bestial sling here from neutral. The Quick Step is going to come out here, not able to do. Is that sleep claws? Sleepy claws.
On the claws.
As we are going.
Oh, the parry! He landed the parry! Oh my goodness!
What on earth? And we do see.
Up for the endurable frenzy, but the Quick Step's there. He's going to get away from it. He's going to get caught though. 374, 561. Oh no, Zawadi needs to be careful here. This bestial sling's going to be tough to get away from as he comes in for the catch flame. 249 damage. That is Zawadi taking a 2-1 victory over Markovesso and moving himself into the next round.
What a round, LB, as we do see, the parry, of all things, the parry, managing to land it and then getting the unendurable frenzy off afterwards. What an insane round here once again. And, Zawadi, 1 for bringing those interesting builds. And Marco, both of them known for using their interesting builds. I'd say neither of these are particularly meta. So my word. All of these exchanges so far, LB, have been absolutely fantastic. But when you're in that position, you have the unendurable frenzy out and you are going to get clipped. I think that Quick Step is the play there, but would you have approached it in any different a way, LB? Or once you get that repulsed off and you're waking up to the unendurable frenzy, what do you do?
And I think he had the right idea, right? He uses the Quick Step to get away from it. I don't know. He could try to attack and break him out, as that's one thing that Zawadi's build lacks is poise. So it means that he can't poise cast, right? He can't passively use his poise to cast those incantations and get them off, which means that if Markovesso wakes up and just mashes an attack, that he is probably going to win that trade in terms of poise values. He is going to knock him out of what he's casting and keep that pressure on him. However, that's just such a hard thing to read when you're in that situation. The natural thing is to try to get away. I think Quick Step is a phenomenal tool. These players do have very low latency, however. They're both North American East, which is going to mean that Quick Step, though valuable, though better, faster than rolling in terms of the ability to actually pull it off because of how inputs and things like that work. It's his best bet to get away. It just wasn't quite enough, as that it was just a misplace in the Quick Step is going to cause him to get caught. And that's very tricky to properly get around as well, is that particular incantation, because it doesn't really have a set pattern on where it's going to go. It's kind of just it's kind of just RNG in a sense. Which way are these going to fly? Am I quick stepping the right direction? So you can't really blame Markovesso. I think it was the right choice. Quick step away. It was just unfortunate the way that incantation worked out, caused him to get caught, and that was it for him.
I'm going to be super interested to see how Markovesso does now in the losers bracket. Again, someone who I was very impressed with in the last Festival of Combat with how he used that thrusting sword, and again using these odd setups and using that quick step as well as a means of number 1, escape was a great idea. He just wasn't able to find the right moments in order to use it to the best of their ability, and it's super unfortunate how it panned out for him, but I wish him the very best of luck as he moves his way through the losers bracket, and it should be super, super interesting. But moving on to this next round here, Gorshwabs, that is a mouthful, I'll give it that that much, versus Eli DKS. I'm not quite sure what we're going to expect here. We do see the Uggs on could you refresh my memory on what the Colossal Sword, that particular one, the Godslayer Colossal, is it the one that
that would be the Godslayer Colossal Sword.
Yeah, that's the one.
Godslayer it's a very interesting place right now because it has lower damage than things like Grafted and Ruins are going to offer. However, that being said, it gets a little bit more range. It's a lot closer to like that Zweihander range. It fits on the Dex Faith build, which is just a really good build right now. In general, you have a lot of good options. You have pretty good power stance greatsword options. You have really, really good power stance great spears. You still get the opportunity to use things like heavy thrusting and stuff like that. And it looks like we actually are going to see a mirror of the Godslayer Uggs here as well, as we just have a little glimpse of a Phantom there before we get the summon in. So it is definitely a very good, strong UGS right now. However, you know, it's one of those things. Do you prefer the high damage or do you prefer the better range and able to, you know, for lack of a better term, kilo people? But this will be a mirror, so it'll be about the same regardless. I believe we see Gwish on the left, we see Ellie on the right, and
ladies and gentlemen, on a 3, on a 2, and a 1, Ellie. And the bomb is out.
Our match is underway. A mirrored Black Flame protection. I mean, they've synergized this before they came out. And there you are going to see that Tree Spears coming out there. So he saw, you know, Gwish saw that Ellie was on that UGS Colossal Sword rather, and decided to play the Great Spears against it. So the roll comes in at 235 is going to be the damage, goes for the Vortex, goes to counter it out, is inside of Gwish there, goes for the jump attack, unable to land that, but now the wave dash goes for the roll catch. Great reaction, comes out, able to get away from Ellie there. Ellie trying to find the pressure in here. The poke comes out, unable to land that. The running attack is going to come through off of the Great Spear here, and just trying to keep this pressure as much as possible as the wave dash is coming in, going for the running attack, finds it 396 damage is the anti-air on that. Now he's going to be looking for that Vortex, but just these rolls in, trying to find it, and if you do not unlock the roll in is a good opportunity. Takes the jump trade, and that is not going to work out. And that is going to be in favor of the side of Gwish there to keep Ellie on the back foot.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting match. Both setups play very similar. You're looking for those crouches, and the crouches he's able to land. Oh my word, 800 damage. He's so low. He's at the end. Oh, manages to get it. We just see the bestial sling. I think the bestial sling is going to be the play here. He may be low, however, he may get Vortex 610. Manages to force the roll there, and that's the bestial sling. Finishing it in style, but I almost cut off there by the players getting a little bit overly excited there. Going for those crouch pokes with the Ultra does have an advantage in that if you mess it up, you do get a running attack. Now, it's not ideal, but a running attack on an Uggs is an awful lot better than a running attack on a dual great spear, sorry. There's a little bit more of a skill ceiling in the setup, but those jump L1s can just do so much damage, albeit we've seen it there, you know, took nearly a quarter of his health bar there on some of those jumps, and it was, you know, my heart goes out to him, but that's just the nature of the beast here. But very solid play here on both sides, but Gorshwab was really able to make full use of that moveset, and you know, we didn't see a stray running L1 on his side at all, so fair play to him. Really, really solid.
Yeah, it was a really interesting choice to go with the Tree Spears against the Colossal Sword. So a very interesting idea from the side of Ellie there. I have to say it was, or sorry, from the side of Gwish there. It worked out in the end with that bestial sling to kind of finish off the kill there. And that's one thing that you pointed out is those jump attacks. And the very interesting thing about, you know, the way the Power Stance Great Spears work is you can kind of mix in those jump attacks relatively well with the wave dashes, right? So you come in, you find your first little bit of damage, you continue that pressure with the, you know, with the wave dashing, you find maybe a roll catch and you chain that into a jump, because 9 out of 10 times they're going to predict that you're going to go for the vortex, they're going to roll it, and that jump's going to do more damage. You saw it there, was almost 700 damage off that jump, nearly killed him actually. So really good play of the Great Spears there. Great Spears is something that's a little bit trickier to use in the UGS. It's kind of a trade bot, right? So if people aren't playing into you, it can be very, very hard to utilize that, especially against something like UGS that does have that range advantage. It still has a really strong vortex and has the ability to keep pressure. So it's one of those interesting matchups when you're looking at these. Is the you know, the Tree Spears versus the Colossal Sword. It's a really, really interesting matchup. But we did see it was in favor of Tree Spears there. We'll see if Ellie can't pull this back and try to find those vortexes a little bit earlier. Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting. This next stock is going to be pretty interesting. And again, in theory, I would always say that like the Colossal wins that matchup. Personally, I know there's the really high damage output, but being able to get those vortexes is really strong. But we do have both of our contestants in 1-0. Gorshwab's on a 3 and a 2 and a 1. LA.
The Bolt is in, the match is underway. We are going to see again the Black Flame protection traded out, the physics coming through, a bit of a gentleman's agreement here, as there's going to be the Tosk version of the Scraps is going to allow him to get that body buff off the offhand Tree Spear, and you can also use, for the main hand, you can use the Holy Grease, and that gives you a lot of damage on those. Trying to fade in for these jumps, rolls out the UGS, the right attack, probably a bit of a misclick there, as you mentioned. The Ocean Roll Catch, but able to get away from it, goes for it again, and there's the counter. 436, the jump comes in, 776 to 288. I think we know who won that trade, but now we're going to see Vortex coming out. 610 damage, goes for that roll catch, finds it 305 for the double poke, unable to get that, but the counter comes in, able to roll away. It's going to be decided of Ellie here. Gawush, though, trying to keep this pressure forward as he continues with these Tree Spears, doing everything he can to keep this pressure moving forward.
Yeah, and we see it here. You know, that misclick has cost him a little bit of that aggression here, as we do see the fan daggers come out again. Little bits of chip damage here. He's trying to go for that tier skip. That's going to be the aim of this game here. He does not want this to go on any longer than he can, and the more he messes up, we see 474. We go for the jumping attack, not able to make it. The Vortex begins though, 609 damage, 305. What did I tell you? This matchup is an awful lot in favor of the Colossal, even though there's a high burst damage here. Just the ability to get that Vortex off that little bit cleaner. And again, it's going to be an interesting one here as we see both players fighting for center. A much more patient game. Going to use those scraps here to try and complement his aggression. Not able to get good aggression out of it here. We see a really nice feint here. Out comes the jump attack. Not able to make it. Goes for center. And that's
there's the jump from Gawush, and that is going to be it. And one of the things you mentioned is that burst damage is something that's very scary on those weapons. And though, you know, he has the ability to get those vortexes better, one thing I would have liked to see come from the side of Ellie there, I would have liked to see him do a little bit more of mixing up those crouch pokes. So what I mean by that is, you know, you see him, I mean, it was almost a pattern. He gets the hit, he immediately doubles the hit, then he waits for the roll catch. When he gets the roll catch, he doubles that hit. And, you know, Wish was able to see that as well. And he's able to get away from that vortex a little bit easier that way, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's a good thing that's going to work against somebody until they know what you're doing. And from that point, they can just prediction get away from all of your vortex pressure. And you saw Ellie did that, or sorry, Wish did that a lot against Ellie. And it's one of the reasons he was able to pull that back. So Ellie definitely has the right idea. He knows how to couch cancel and do you know, the small little bits of tech that you can with that Colossal to make it borderline unreactable. The problem is though he is borderline unreactable, he's now very predictable.
You know, it's a strange world we live in where we say borderline unreactable Uggs, and ironically LB is it's kind of an interesting one here, but yeah, it's an interesting matchup. I would always have it in favor of the Colossal simply for the fact that it's just able to get that Vortex that little bit easier. You don't have to worry quite as much about messing it up if you're wave dashing, you're goblin stepping, whichever one annoys you more. You know, it's an interesting setup. It's a very interesting one that it doesn't have that failure state if you do mess up to the same extent. But in that matchup, where do you think that lies, LB?
It really is player dependent.
Really? Is it? Would you
I think
say
if
that
both players are truly even, the UGS wins because of the ability that you have to land those vortexes and things like that. But it's very, very even, and the reason for that is that Uggs can't freely aggress into you because it will lose the trades, especially Godslayer versus Tree Spears. Now, Grafted versus Tree Spears, maybe not, right? Now, maybe Grafted has the ability to win that damage outright, but that particular matchup of Godslayer versus the Tree Spears is going to win trades, so it's very hard to aggress those Tree Spears because they have such a quick attack to reaction trade with you on the UGS. So yeah, I know it sounds crazy trading into a UGS, but against Godslayer specifically on Tree Spears, that is something that's a winning matchup in your favor. Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting one as well, as we are going to move on to this next set, LB. It is going to be, of course, how do I say that? And these names, what is it with PlayStation played? Vita versus Franel, as they are both in here, ladies and gentlemen, on a 3, on a 2, and a 1. LA.
Our bolt is in, our match is underway. We do see the Holy Fort coming out there from the side of Van, and there's the Grafted swap coming through. So we're going to see Grafted versus Codids. We'll have to see how Fran is going to deal with that. The jump attack comes out, but Vanny's going to go ahead and throw out that poke from neutral there. It's going to be 254 damage, goes for the roll catch against Franel. Franel able to get away from that one there. As we do see a bit of a reset to neutral. Franel just trying to find some ground, find some space, really looking to bait out those whiffs and punish them, but he's in a little bit too much space for him to do that. There's the jump attack. That's going to clip. Only one of them lands, so 139 damage through that shield talisman. As we do now see, Vanetta is trying to find a way in. We do see the pots coming out, able to kind of keep that pressure. 44 does come through, though, but the trade is there in favor. The jump attack to counter it, though. 398. The counter jump comes out, but 764 is going to be in favor of Codids there. Now a sizable health advantage is going to be in favor of Franel here, as Vanny needs to figure out exactly how they're going to get around this. So the jumps are going to come through. It's going to make that vortex a little bit trickier. That chip damage comes through. Another 419 is really not chip damage at that point, is it? And as you do see the poke coming out there, trying to keep the anti-air in, goes for the punish on the jump attack, and it does land just a hair late. It looks like we will have a little bit of latency between these players here, trying to figure this out. There's going to be, again, those pots coming through. Let's see if he's able to get away from that one. He looks like he is going to be working on it. There's the running attack off the code. It's a very interesting choice. The running L1, the jump's going to clip for 89 damage, though. Very interesting how just the very smidgen of the tip of that is actually what's clipping him there. And it's just enough to break the poise, get a little bit of chip damage. Good read comes out to get away from that punish, though, but the trade's going to come in. That's going to be in favor of the grafted, but it's so little health. I don't know if he can afford to take that trade. This pot could be enough to kill him here with the chip damage that we've seen come off there. Great roll, though. Baits it forward, runs back into it, and you see it there, just completely disappears. So waits for it to come out, rolls into it, and again, completely disappears. 54 chip damage does not come, but he's, oh no, he's low, goes for the running attack. Oh no, unable to land it, and the jump's going to come through for 93 damage, and that's going to be Franel taking the first set to 1.
And that's really in that matchup what the dual coded is going to want to do. Take those shots of opportunity, not play overly aggressively, using those consumables to try and like complement his aggression really nicely. And you know, very nice display here of Franel and how that matchup is supposed to work. And you know, Vanita not quite able to get those vortexes, not able to get, you know, Ultra, the colossal swords work one way, and that is you need to be able to sink your teeth in, and then once you're there, you do not let go. You go for that vortex, you go for one hit after the other to try and maximize the amount of damage you can get. But when Franel just needs to R1 to break it, that can make things a little bit more complicated. You have to pre-space the most likely attack, which in Franel's case is going to be that L1, and that can just force you back if you misspace it. And Franel looking for those opportunities, those little bits of damage that he's able to get in slowly but surely, making it count. And not good. I don't think he got hit all that many times at all. Maybe a couple of nasty trades there, but again, Vanita just not able to get the good damage, just not able to make good use of the damage that, you know, he may have been able to get if he was played a little bit more patient.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where Codids isn't really a winning mashup against, you know, the and it's one of those things where it forces you to play a very particular way, and that's going to be playing around your jumps out of vortex, and it's going to be playing around your spacing. So you did see he did a really good job utilizing the pots to negate a lot of the pressure that he was able to bring would be the side of Vanny. So Franel did a really good job of utilizing those. In addition, the jumps out of vortex were on point, and that's a big answer when you're looking at, you know, the difference in these players. Is that a HTS SC coming out, or maybe a straight sword? It's kind of hard to tell. Not
quite sure here from this angle, I'll be, but I've no doubt in my mind we'll find out in just a second as we have both our players in. Vanita on the left, and it's going to be Franel on the right, ladies and gentlemen, on a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Ale.
Our bolt is in. Our match is underway. The Black Flame versus the Holy Fortification. It is going to be a Stitcher in the hand of Vanny there. So we do decide to put some poise on, get that heavy thrusting sword. Interesting that that's the answer that we come up with for Codids. Is looks like we are going to see the Power Stance Centrinas coming out and does manage to find 2 L1s and immediately find the sleep. So he does get some little bit of damage in there, and now Van is trying to get away from those. You know, Codids does still win this matchup just because of sheer DPS. Oh no, he jumps off the edge! I wonder, are they cross-region?
I believe they are cross-region, so ladies and gentlemen.
Good on him for realizing that he is cross-region and getting out of that one. But unfortunately, that is going to be 2-0 now in favor of Franel. You know, unfortunately, Vanny realized that that is against the rules. St. Trina's are going to be banned in cross-region. But that will bring us over to our next match of Snapcaster and Ellie. Not a whole lot to commentate on that one.
Well, yeah, I think this is a good opportunity as any LB to kind of mention why Trina's is banned across region. You know, I can speculate purely from a theoretical side, which is that ghost hits and, you know, being punished for your rolls on ghost hits and is kind of what's the tech? There's a technical term for it. And we are big about technical terms here in the den, which is a BG, I think.
Technical term, yeah.
So I can imagine that makes cross-region matches just a little bit more pleasant for our players to be able to play. But theoretically, Coded still wins this. Like, hands down. Its raw damage output, its outranges it, if I recall correctly, by a pretty wide margin. It can whiff punish it an awful lot easier. There's a huge number of like situations where just Coded's just the better choice because Coded does damage right up front, where Trina's kind of like trades off that very high damage numbers for the most part, unless you trick out your build in an obscene way. Coded still wins that, so I'm curious as to your thoughts.
It's one of those things that as the game has developed, we've realized a lot of the counters out there for Trina's. When you actually look at just the sheer range and damage difference, you're looking at a 600 AR Coded versus a 400 at best AR Trina, because there's no doubt in my mind he is not on an optimal Trina build, right? He's not running a high dex, he's running high strength, which means he's probably utilizing a talisman swap to get that anyways. So he's looking at very low AR on those, maybe 400 ARs. You see not a lot of damage came through, even though he did manage to get to sleep. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, as the game has developed, we've realized that it's not quite as strong on latency as we thought. But of course, it's a status with latency in there. Latency is going to only buff statuses, as you mentioned.
Yeah, for sure.
Being a thing is going to cause a lot of those things to happen. So it is very, very interesting to say the least when you have those types of matchups being played. And as of right now, it is going to still be banned in cross-region. But as more things are coming to fruition, it's entirely possible we might see something like that lifted as people are realizing that, hey, you know, Trinas really aren't that great because the range that you sacrifice and the damage you sacrifice, even if you're able to get the sleep, which with the way to optimize armor against it, it's not likely, is, you know, definitely one of those interesting things. But it looks like we will have Snapcaster and Eli coming at each other now.
This is going to be an interesting one because I know Snapcaster has always been pretty strong in these tournaments. I believe Evans has been in pretty much all of them, if memory serves correctly, and you know did very, very well, especially in early ones. Excuse me. But we do have both players in. It's going to be Snapcaster with the mushroom hat here versus Elimich in the near corner on the Ultra, ladies and gentlemen, on a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Ale.
And there is the Bolt. This is another very interesting matchup, and that's going to be two-handed thrusting versus the Colossal. It's one of those things where you do have pretty good opportunity on that thrusting sword. You get guaranteed poise break a lot of the time. You're able to manage out your fan daggers and things like that. The running R2 is always going to poise break. You do get access to stuff like Storm Stomp, Flaming Strike. Looks like we're utilizing the Beast Roar. So we're going to be playing for status. Beast Roar to punish. There's 619 damage. The catch is going to come in for 476, but able to predict that one, get away from it. It's going to be the side of Snapcaster here. So Snapcaster, unable to find the spacing, did get punished out on that. We'll see if he's going to be able to be a little more aggressive. He is utilizing a lot of these Beast Roars here to try to find that chip damage. The neutral is going to come in as there's the poke from neutral, able to feint it behind and finds the spacing. Great feint behind, but unable to capitalize on it as the running R2 comes out, unable to get that. Those who do see the Beast, I'm sorry, not the Beast Roar, the Rot Grease is going to be reapplied on that Answer Rapier. There's a lot of frost building up. I'm very curious what the dagger on his, the axe on his hip is for, though.
I'd be curious as well. It may have an access to an Ash of War that might be actually a bit more advantageous in this, as he is going to be get hit there from neutral. However, the thrusting sword managing to land a running R1. We see the Beast Roar come out, not able to do it. Another Beast Roar for 503 damage on that one. Goes for this. It's a hit here. We're not going to see the Rot proc just yet by the looks of things. He's given his opponent an awful lot of space here, and to try and keep status pressure, you got to be that little bit closer to try and threaten it. Although being close to a Colossal is not a good thing. 476 and not one but two hits. Beast Roar comes out here to try and get that bit of counter pressure. We are going to see a bit of blue been drink here.
Punish, 998 damage. but he does alleviate his Scarlet Rot. But now you're looking at 1,000 AR on the front, on the side of that grafted. Ellie cannot afford to take a trade here. As you do see now, he's going to play even more passive and probably just try to find a Beast Roar here or there to finish this one out, as now Snapcaster's in a tough situation to try to finish this one out. But Ellie is looking a little bit more rough, though. He has the AR advantage, does not have the health advantage. Let's see how he plays it out here. The neutral coming in, though, from Snap is going to be very difficult for him to get around. There's those Beast Roars, forced to roll that one, unable to be in a position to strafe. Rolls the next without a problem. There's the counter poke, goes for the roll catch, and able to land 118 damage, though, off that Rust. And you see how much that Blue Feather does. The Beast Roar comes out, great strafe comes out. Now we're going to see the dashes coming in. Great spacing comes out. Phenomenal read from Ellie to see that attack is coming and get away from it. You see he's not even playing into the crouch here now, but now he's going to try to find that pressure. He's one poke away from dying, but he's one poke away from winning at the same time. Let's see if he can pull this one around. The Beast Roar's coming through there from the side of Snap. Snap doing a great job playing around this Colossal Sword. There's the roll coming in, trying to find it. The trade comes through in favor. 742. There's that damage we're talking about, but the Beast Roar, the Fan Dagger's not going to do it, and that's going to be Snapcaster taking the first set.
What a round.
Rather.
Both players playing this super smart all the way across LB. We see, Snapcaster playing it clever with that single thrusting sword, something we've seen Markovesso use in the prior tourney, which I was incredibly impressed with. But, Ellie's played so clever in this as well. He played it very slow. I think it was just that consumable at the very end that nearly cost him the match. But both of them were pretty much one shot. Snapcaster took 700, pretty much 700 damage. If not, it was more than 700, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. It was more, It was
998, I believe.
What? On the trade. Takes the trade there. And when both of them are so close to being one shot, having something with any degree of high commitment at all is a bad idea, because he is going to get Beast Roared, and it's just like, poof. That really, really messy setup, absolutely messy. But we'll see in this next round if Snapcaster is able to play it through, and we do have both of our players in.
Yeah, it's curious to me that he's utilizing the strictly going off status and Beast Roar. As you and I actually chatted a little bit this morning about how Thrusting Sword can actually get around the Colossal. But we'll see how they're going to continue this forward. Both of our contestants are in. Snapcaster with a 1-0 lead over Ellie on the right, and in a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Ale.
Out it comes here. The bolt is going to be out, ladies and gentlemen. We do see both players here going for their physics. We are going to see the immediate fan daggers here. Not really going to be necessary. I don't think his 49 poise is going to be poise broken, but the two-handed thrusting sword, as we do see yet more fan daggers come out. Out come the glintstone scraps as well. Just a little bit of harass. Out comes the frost. I believe he has him frosted. Yes, it is going to be Elmich who has been frosted here. Snapcaster playing this very smartly here, trying to find those openings again. If the openings are going to be broken, we see the Colossal pokes come out. We see the wave dashing come out, gets that 489 damage. Going for that trade here, is going to win the trade, forcing his opponent in the corner. Almost gets a vortex on that 427 damage, 763 all in all. Snapcaster is going to be playing this, I believe, slightly behind, but that's not to be sneezed at here. As you do see these wave dashes come out,
great
276
counter pressure
damage.
comes out there on that crouch attack. And one thing worth mentioning on that S-Stock Enda is the crouch attack just comes out so fast. I believe it's 9 frames on 30 FPS, which is incredibly fast. That is in the unreactable range, but great pressure from that crouch attack, able to find the running attack into it as well. And now you see the chase down coming through. Snap has to be careful here. Now we're going to see the scraps coming out for the glintstones, trying to find that little bit of damage. The frostbox comes in as well, trying to re-up that and get that little bit of burst damage. There's that roll attack, though, and that's 83 damage off the crouch R1. That's Snapcaster taking a 2-0 victory over the UGS of Element.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of round 1, with Snapcaster taking a 2-0 against the Colossal Sword. And well played to both of our contestants, and what an exceptional round.
Absolutely. Again, you see those heavy thrusting swords those thrusting swords do so much with what's allowed on them, I will say. But for next round, as we look at round 2, quick take a peek at the losers bracket. Alucard did manage to go 2-1 over Veggie. Tempest did drop 2-0 to Dreamer. So now we're going to see Markovesso and Ellie, and then Vannis Eli DKS and Ellie Mick against Vanna. So it should be really interesting to see how those play out as well.
Yeah, should be pretty interesting across the board.
We are going to be now into our round 2. We'll see Slave Knight Koss on the left against Nibri on the right, and then a 3, a 2, and a 1. Ale.
And the bolt is out, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to see the Black Flame protection here, and we're going to see the other buffs coming out here as we do see the physics from both players. Out comes the potential punish there. Not able to make it is the side of Nibri. However, the Ultra is going to be there. We are going to see these dual straight swords. Nibri's taking some damage. We are going to see the jumping over the crouch R1 here. Manages 324. These trades are not in his favor as he gets hit not once but twice here. Out comes the intercept. The anti-air comes out on the Ultra. We are going to see... Oh no, he gets caught in the backstab animation. 660 damage. Both of these players are going to be pretty low. Both of them are going to have to play pretty careful here across the board. One mistake on the side of Nibri is he's going to be in trouble, as we do see the crouch R1 come out, manages to be definitely rolled. This is going to be a rough one as we see the jump attack. We see a 326 damage there. So careful all the way across here. Both players, we do see the scraps come out to try and keep him at bay here, keep him moving. A little bit of damage here. Koss is going to have to be a little bit more careful here as he's forced into against the back wall. We do see the straight swords doing what they can. The empty jumps coming out here. Out come more scraps here to try and keep that pressure.
There's the Twin Bird Shield as well, so we are going to see the full, for lack of a better term, cockroach mode coming out. We see the Royal Remains chest, and he does find the trade 62 in those counter frames, and that's what you talk about, that red feather on the Colossal Sword is just so deadly. And Slave Knight came through. He was able to get some good pressure on. Nibri did some really good spacing there to punish out with those straight swords. You did see he was on the Slenders. The reason for that was the buff that Slave Knight had against holy damage, so I believe that's why we saw the Slenders coming out there, to try to negate that as much as possible. And he definitely was played well on both sides. Slave Knight was just able to utilize his health pool a little bit better and leverage that to get that high AR to find that counter thrust.
And that counter thrust hit so hard. And, the red feather, we talk about that. Going for those swaps towards the end of a fight are so important. We've seen it multiple times so far in this tournament. Blue feather reduces so much of that damage, and the red feather increases it so much. They are integral to anyone's build to have access to them. If not from the very beginning, at least as a swap off, because their utility is second to none in this game. It's just the nature of the beast here, as we are going to see both players seemingly on the exact same setups. LB, this is going to be pretty interesting. Will we see Nibri adapt and move on in this next round? That's going to be a curious thing, as Koss is, of course, going to be one up in this best of 3. Nibri only has one more mistake left in this setup, and that's going to make a world of difference here, as it's going to be an interesting one. Both players were pretty even across the board, LB. That was an interesting thing, and it all boiled down to who was able to get that last hit in. And do you think that there's anything Nibri could have done differently there to try and mitigate how oppressive that Colossal Ugspoke can be?
I think Nibri needed to just, he needed to take his time there at the end. And that's one of the, it's kind of like the thing we go back to whenever we talk about matches against things like Great Spears and Colossal Sword, is you can't really afford to aggress into them. Nibri played that match, I would say, cleaner than Slave Knight all the way through. But when he got him low, instead of just sitting back and forcing Slave Knight into him to play off of, he only needs to hit him maybe once or twice more. He needs to, bait him in to walk into him to take that damage, to find a backswing on the roll, something along those lines to break that poise. And instead he plays aggressive, and playing aggressive is going to allow them to get those counter hits, and that's the win condition of Koss, right? Is to find that tier skip kill. And Nibri just needed to play a little bit slower in the end. He did a really good job of playing that way in the beginning. He jumped a couple of vortexes, did a lot of good pressure against Koss, and that's how he got him so low. But he just kind of got a little too aggressive, which is really easy to do. You get somebody low, it's super, super easy to just immediately try to pressure them and get that final little kill. So we'll see how it's going to play out here.
And of course, we are going to see what seems to be both players in the exact same setups, but Slave Knight Koss on the Colossal on the left, Nibri on the right, ladies and gentlemen, on a 3 and a 2 and a 1. LA.
And there is our bolt in. Again, we're going to see that Holy Fortification coming out, and Nibri is going to go ahead and get his buffs up respectively as well, and it's going to be the Slenders coming out again, and the Bestial still get trade out from the Fan Dagger, 16 to 55. I do think that Nibri does win that 95 off of that one, but there's that poke coming in that is in a range of 295, goes for the counter, unable to land it. So now the Bestial Sling is going to come in to try to find this, but he's able to let him into him. The jump attack, though, in the neutrals is going to counter out. There's 442 comes in, there's 295 in the Vortex. Endure to get away from it, but not before he takes 472 damage. Jump comes out a little bit late, 295. There's going to be the roll catch, another 295, goes for it again, trying to find this dude. That Black Flame protection is helping out Nibri quite a lot here, but still, it is still that Vortex he has to be afraid of. The backswing off of the neutral, but the jump comes in for 442 damage, and now you're seeing the cost is playing this a little bit smarter, finds the trade, goes to the Vortex, 442, and there's the roll catch for 69. Slave Knight turns that one around. A completely different player that round.
Yeah, it was an awful lot more of a back and forth there in that one, Nibri got a little bits of damage in here, there. It all adds up, of course, and Slave Knight does have to be careful when he's starting his attack, because if the hyper armor isn't there, he is going to be immediately staggered, but we've seen it there. He got some serious damage in there, got real good value off of every single hit he got. He got once, twice, sometimes 3 times all the way through those exchanges. That Vortex potential, the ability to roll catch and to continue to roll punish your opponents is one of the hallmarks of the Colossal play, and it really stands to Cost. I mean, Cost played that absolutely almost textbook. A couple of mistakes here or there, really, in terms of like spacing and maybe walking into things he probably ought not to, but ultimately it didn't matter in the wind up, because he was able to just make good on every bit of advantage he was able to get, and it showed all the way through that exchange. It really, really did. And GG's to Cost, and we'll be seeing him in the next round, and we'll be curious, keeping an eye on Nibri as he is going to be moving down into the losers bracket. We'll have to keep an eye on how that is moving on.
Yeah, and he's actually going to be fighting Vanny. Vanny was able to take 2-0 over Ellie Mick there, so that's both of our Ellies dropped. Our match 17 in the losers round will be Nibri and Vanny, but we are going to see our Just a Fool and Rascals coming into this next set. So Just a Fool was utilizing those straight swords, Rascals utilizing that Moonveil. This should be a relatively interesting matchup and seeing how it actually plays out. I think it really could go either way. Both of these players are quite skilled in their own regard, definitely understand their builds quite well, so we'll have to see how they're going to play this one out.
Yeah, this should be pretty interesting, and I'm curious if we're going to see a build change here on the side of Rascals. Rascals is stuck to Moonveil in an awful lot of the tournaments we've seen. He's very, very fond of it, and again, I can't say I blame him. Having access to such a high damage output tool can be very, very strong, but we'll see moving forward here. We may very well see a build change here, but it's going to be hard to tell moving forward, because we've only seen one exchange really of players, one set. They may change builds completely. It's hard to know, really, really hard to know, as we are getting both of our players in. Ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be Just a Fool versus Rascals, and that is going to be Just a Fool in the near corner with Rascals in the far. LB, give us the count in.
And a 3, a 2, and a 1. Our match is underway.
We are going to see the dual straight swords here on the side of Rascals by the looks of things, with Just a Fool here going to be on dual straight swords as well. Rot swords versus nobles by the looks of things, as we are going to see these fan daggers here peppering Rascals from afar, trying to keep that bit of distance, as we do see the bestial roar come out yet again, keeping a very, very long distance against each other here in this very extended neutral, as we do see the Rot swords trying to go for that punish of the empty jump, not able to make it. Rascals is pushed up against the wall here. He's being punished for keeping this very long distance. Kind of a curious thing that he's keeping that distance, LB.
Yeah, really interesting is Rascals not allowing them to go in. You see there's a little bit of latency here. He does find the run underneath that jump. A good third L1 comes out from Fool. They're definitely well-versed on the setup. Good read, knowing he's going to come back in. The Fan Dagger from neutral, though, it doesn't get punished out. That Scarlet Rot has to be building up, and there is that. He's going to go for the Moonveil swap to try to punish it. But again, we talked about that a little bit earlier, and in terms of the Scarlet Rot, the way you play around that is you have to pre-ball us.
Yes.
You can't give them the opportunity to get the punish off. You see Rascals has a Moonveil ready to punish. That's a very good setup with the Crystal Rot Sword, so likely on the same build, and is opting to go for that, try to get that guaranteed punish off of the bolus, but Just a Fool plays it really, really well. The jump attack's going to clip those 616 damage. We reset to a neutral here, trying to find the way in. The jumps from each player. You see the Beast Roar now coming out from Fool. So Fool's going to have Frost versus Scarlet Rot, a little bit more range, a little bit lower damage. Should be a pretty even matchup through and through. But this 484 damage actually is Lightning on those Nobles and is not going for Frost. So very interesting choice of builds here, but we are going to see the Lightning Nobles with Beast Roar try to find the pressure against Rascals here. Rascals throws the L1 out from neutral, unable to land. You see that Moonveil coming out, and now he's looking for that punish, switches over immediately to those Rot Swords, and there is that Rot proc, and now he can just hold that Moonveil, and there's the punish. 757 damage comes through, and now he's going to continue building it up there again. Again, you get that Scarlet Rot off. You just have to hold Moonveil, and Fool cannot choose to bolus. There's 616 damage off the jump attack, goes for it again, but able to roll away from it is the side of Fool. Fool rolls underneath, gets away from that one. Now the Moonveil comes out for the punish again. There it is, 379 damage, and that is Rascals taking this in a 1-0.
And that's exactly what you're aiming for. You're looking for that moment where you clearly tell that they're going to go for that bolus, and you just Moonveil them back into a loading screen. That is the aim of that game. And Rascals played it pretty much textbook. True, there was a couple of times he took some nasty trades there while he had Just a Fool in the corner. But these things happen, and having that status pressure, it's one thing having high damage LB, but it's another having that status pressure to be in the back of your opponent's mind that they have to try and find that out. They can't just trade with impunity. They have to just take that hit, go, uh-oh, my bar is nearly full, I'm going to have to get out of here. And then that sets you up perfectly for that Moonveil, and we've seen Rascals do it there on a couple of occasions. Took some nasty trades, but Just a Fool, despite his namesake, is anything but a fool as he tried to move out, but that is exactly, unfortunately, what Rascals was looking for in those exchanges.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, Fool needs to be a little bit more cautious on these buildups, and Rascals did getting a great job on finding the reads of knowing when Fool is going to come in and, try to get that bolus off. You saw he did one for an early bolus there. Rascals read it immediately, had the Moonveil out and ready, and immediately punished him. So it's such a good setup, and it's something that you and I have discussed in the past, is using those Rot Swords to that Moonveil is such a strong setup to have. Even on lower latency, you're going to get value out of that. So very good play from Rascals through and through there. Really just played it textbook. The power stance mirror did look like it was slightly in favor of Fool in terms of the ability to play the power stance straight swords. But again, you're looking at a massive range difference, which is going to allow Fool that little bit of an advantage. And that's what you trade off for on the side of Rascals, is you're trading off the fact that you are utilizing the status for the fact that you're no longer getting the same range that you're going to get on some of those other straight swords. But it definitely is a fair trade, and we saw it there. It worked out in his favor. But Just a Fool on the left, 0 to Rascals on the right, and you can count us in.
Ladies and gentlemen, on a 3 and a 2 and a 1 for round 2. Ale.
There is the bolt in and underway. The Beast Roar immediately coming out to find the punish of the Flask, but Rascal's able to see that this time. We do see the Flask traded out. This is going to go ahead and soft to a dagger, get that Phalanx up, a very good utilization. 115 damage comes off that one. It's a very, very good thing to have on these builds. It creates that neutral pressure just a little bit better. Is all three going to call out there? Does throw the Fan Dagger, 17 more damage. A jump attack on the L1 there, not able to land that. I don't believe we even saw a Ghost proc. You see the Frost Stomps coming out now, so I'm curious if we are going to see the cold build coming out now from the side of Fool. Decided to let go of the AR and also build that status. The jump trade's going to come through, but the L1 Rascals, 444 damage, is going to find the punish there, and we'll see how Fool is going to figure this out. You see the Phalanx now coming out, tries to punish that, does manage to get the Frost proc though, but the damage is not there as Rascals is able to find a roll, goes for the jump attack, unable to land that, goes for it again, unable to land that one. There's the jump attack, 616. That Scarlet Rot's getting close to building here. He's got to be cautious here. He's got to find a way to get the bullet. The Moonveil comes out and he can get punished for 404 damage there through the tiers as well. That is a tier proc. Just a bit of a decent, we can't see it, but it is in fact a tier proc. You see these L1s coming out. The running attack from the side of Rascals. Let's catch 233 damage. Goes to a jump attack, unable to land that from the side of Fool. Rascals is playing this so cleanly. I don't believe he's hardly taken any damage from the side of Fool outside of those Frost procs. He's able to roll. We do see the Swaddle Cloth coming in there from the side of Fool. It's going to help him get some of that health back with those consecutive attacks. The Moonveil for the swap there. The great reaction roll comes out from the side of Fool. Moonveil unable to land that one, as we do see Rascals throwing out the L1, unable to land a great punish off of that. The backswing comes through, 484 damage. He's going to go for the Beast Roar. You see that Moonveil out. He's ready for it. There's the jump attack. Try to finish it off. The Scarlet Rot is going to be close to building here, and that's going to be it for Fool. He needs to find a bolus, but it's so tough against Rascals here. The jump attack, unable to land that now. Back in the corners on the side of Fool. Decides to take the counter aggression and get him away. You just see that Royal Remains doing some work here. Throws out the L1 on the straight source, throws it out again, unable to land that, and Rascals starts to trade it out as well. 18 damage. There's that Scarlet Rot. He's got to be careful here. You do see the Moonveil coming out from the side of Rascals. He's waiting for that buff to come through, but he's going to find the damage there. Oh my goodness, and no, 253 comes through. So much burst just came out from Fool.
And he was so close. Just a fool in that last bit had an opportunity to put Rascals away. Rascals stayed in with that Moonveil. It was actually really, really close. Rascals was one hit. He was so close to dying, but just a fool, for whatever reason, thought, maybe swinging again is a bit of a mistake, and ended up getting put away himself in the process. Super, super unfortunate, but you know what? It happens to the very best of us, LB. Sometimes we make a bad read or a bad decision in a match, and hesitation in these matches can sometimes be defeat. But GG's to Rascals, who played 90% of that match as cleanly as I've seen it at SS Mirror go. Like, really, really solid stuff. Those dual straight swords can do so much work, and having the Rot and the Moonveil in his back pocket at pretty much any time he ever needs it was really, really solid on his side. But he'll be moving on to fight Slave Knight Koss in round 3. And Just a Fool will be keeping an eye on the losers bracket to see how he does moving forward, as we are now moving on to Zawadi, who's been on his very interesting light roll build, versus Gorshwab, who did incredibly well in that last round as well, LB.
Yeah,
so it's going to be an interesting.
That strength faith build. Zawadi's going to be on that arcane build. So not strength faith, that Dex faith build with the spears and the colossal God Slayer. So I'm very curious to see how that's going to play out. One thing I do want to point out in the Slave Knight, the Just a Fool Rascals match, it was like you mentioned, Rascals completely turned around. The PSS was a little bit in favor of the side of Fool that first match, and you didn't even really need Moonveil was the side of Rascals. He played that super well, utilizing those straight swords. The Scarlet Rot didn't come in until the very last minute as it sets anyways, so really good play came through and through. But I did like Just a Fool's aggression near the end. He called out the bluff on Rascals. He was able to keep that counter pressure forward, so played really, really well. That being said, Zawadi, Garwashu, this is going to be tough for Zawadi. He's going to need to figure out a way to get away from these super high meta weapons, utilize that Endure, maybe utilize some Quick Steppers from Storm Stomp, and force Kawashi back, which is going to allow him to get these incantations.
Well, one of the advantages is how much poise damage does Catch Flame do off the top of your head, LB?
I believe it's 100.
It's 100 damage, and he's a guaranteed poise break here, even in any case with leaderboard rules. Obviously, Bestial Sling can do an awful lot of poise damage as well. He can have means of keeping him at bay there as well. He does have tools in his back pocket to be able to keep his opponent at bay and to do really solid damage. And we may see some dragon incantations if Gorshwab is going to be rocking those dual great spears yet again. And if it is the case that he's rocking them, then he may have to be careful of being counter pressured with some dragon incantations. That might be something that we do see be rocked out here on the side of Zawadi. So it's going to be an interesting round. I'm going to be super hyped to see how this one is going to pan out, LB, and it's going to be an interesting one. Going to be a super, super interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, on paper, there's no reason that Kawash should actually lose this. With setup. But of course, as you and I know, this is not an on-paper game. There's a lot of things that can happen. As we saw, Zawadi also, his build probably shouldn't have to be. I actually know Marco was on claws, so who really knows at that point. But it's very interesting, though. But we will see, it's one of those things where you're looking at, it's not all about build here, and Zawadi's build is more of a knowledge check than anything to a lot of these players.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of time in on these fights. They don't quite know how it works. They're going to struggle. And we'll have to, Gwashi needs to be able to adapt very quickly to this. And that's the thing with Zawadi has, is he has a large arsenal of different attacks and mix-ups that he can utilize. So I'm really curious to see how he's going to play this one out. Yeah,
it should be pretty interesting. If I'm in that position, I have low poise, I'll be able to, but having that light roll is going to, be really, really useful here, because if he does get hit, at least he lowers the chance of himself getting vortexed, with those great spears, which can be very, very painful. If I'm hit by those great spears, the panic sets in, because they have the ability to either wait and roll catch, they have the ability to just immediately do it again. You're caught in that dilemma of what they're actually going to do, but it should be pretty interesting. I'd imagine we're going to see in this first round Gorshwab's go for pressure right off the bat, hope that works, and hope that he doesn't run into anything that he's not quite expecting. That is a possibility. However, what Zawadi can do is just set up, if he knows that he can be aggressed on so freely, he can set up for some shenanigans with these Cash Flames to try and interrupt, try and play puck with Gorshwab's entire style of play here. And, you know, he's a loose cannon. He could do anything, LB. He's going to be crazy, you know? Who knows how this one is going to pan out?
Yeah, and worth mentioning really quick, I am actually corrected. It is 70 poise damage, not 100 on the catch flame, but still it is going to be a guaranteed poise break against Whoosh. With anything that's under these poise restrictions, like, you know, the straight swords, which I wasn't using, but straight swords, stuff like that is going to have that poise damage on it. So definitely worth noticing and worth mentioning there. So it's one of those things. Again, it's going to require Gouache to be able to play around this build. If he's able to do that, then it shouldn't be too much trouble for him to get through it. But Zawadi's shown that he's able to kind of catch up these higher end players with his mix-ups within the build. Again, he has a lot of options to go for here. He has catch flame, he's got sling, he's got endure, he's got the frenzied and things along those lines. And I'm sure that's only part of it. I'm sure we have dragon incantations and stuff like that on this build. It looks to be a pure arcane casting build. So it's one of those things. Again, he has a lot of options and things available to properly manage this. He just is going to have to force him to play a certain way.
Yeah, and forcing those exchanges is going to be the thing that I think that Zawadi can do. If he's able to force the exchange on his terms, which seems on paper to be quite difficult when someone has so many frame advantages over you and even like wins crazy trades. You know, I'd expect we'll be seeing an awful lot of those jump attacks come out as well, and those jump attacks can do an awful amount of damage, but we do have both of our players in LBU. Zawadi in the far left corner, Gorshwab's in the near, on a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Ale.
And here comes our bolt underway as our match is set. We are going to see some, I'm not exactly sure which fortification that was, but perhaps totally, I'm not really sure. But if the Storm Stomp comes through to counter that out, and you actually do mention, interestingly enough, I believe it's Power Stance Straight Swords coming out from the side of Gouache. Huge jump attack. Oh my goodness, 1373 in the backswing, trying to find the pressure. 23 damage comes out from that Bestial Sling. He's got to be very careful here. So really interesting choice of builds here comes out, and Gouache is not having a hard time at all. There's the R1.
As he walks out.
It swaps over to the Katana and finds it at a very quick, clean 1-0.
Was that a just walk into a throw kind of moment?
It perhaps
the R1
was.
from neutral there as he's coming forward. I think that was the play. And, you know, GG's, you know, we do see what seems to be the one-handed Kiba with is it an off stock in the other hand? I believe that's what Gorshwab is going to be using in that matchup. We switched off of that.
So it was actually Power Stance Straight Swords, and he swapped over to the Moonveil to find the neutral R1 as the roll catch.
Interesting.
And that's where you saw that big damage come out, was that Frost proc on 201s. With no armor, your Frost is going to proc so fast. And
especially when
Zawadi's realized in a single encounter, you know, taking 2 L1s.
Yeah, 2 L1s are going to be the thing that's going to proc that, because it procs lightning fast. Even when you have set up against it, you have to be constantly aware of where that bar is at. And at the very least, roll that proc. That's going to be the priority always. Because even though you do get extra utility when you do get the Frost procced, it can definitely mess up your rhythm on rolls, which can throw you off and get you hit. What it can also do, though, is set you up for other things. So you're going to buffer a roll out of it, and they can hit you from that. There's a load of really, really nasty things they could do. But we do seem to be getting both of our players in now, ladies and gentlemen. And this is going to be an interesting match to see how Zawadi is going to be able to adapt against Gorshwab's. And on a 3 and a 2 and a 1, LA.
And here comes our round 2 is underway. This is match point against Zawadi. There is that Dragon Breath that we talked about. That 600 damage, 1100 comes through, 1500. And that's, again, one of those things that we discussed that we sure his build has. He realized that's going to be his win condition this time. And you can see the Frenzy. The Moonveil's going to come for 1005 damage. These Bestial Slings trying to find 139. This is not looking good. And there it is. The roll catch comes through on Gouache. And that's a quick 1-1 back in favor of. These matches have been so fast.
You know, blink and you'll miss it, LB, as we see a very, very commanding 1-1 here. 1,000 damage on that Moonveil hit, though. Keep in mind, he just needs to land 2 of them, and I think it's pretty much a GG on that one, if he managed to set up for another one. But Zawadi keeping him peppered constantly so he doesn't get the setup with the Bestial Slings from neutral. And, you know, going for that unendurable frenzy. I'm not sure if he got very much in the ways of utility out of it. However, he did throw Gorshwab's off his game, and that's kind of the thing that happened all the way across there, LB. he threw Gorshwab's off the game he wanted to play from the get-go. You know, that dragon head can be very, very disorientating especially if you're not quite expecting it, which, you know, given the build that Zawadi's using, I'm not sure what Gorshwab's was expecting. The man's going to throw out anything. I think, will we see Lion's Claw come out on this one? LP? Is that going to be? Is that what's going to be the counter?
I don't know if that's made it to PlayStation yet, but very interesting though, as we did mention that Dragon Breath comes out, so that's going to force Gouache now to have to play a much different setup in this, not in terms of build, but in terms of play style. So he now needs to figure out a way to, okay, I need to put myself in a position where I can get up close and punish that if it's going to happen, and still manage to get away and win the neutrals. So Gouache needs to decide to forego the buffs here, I think. If it's his only way of actually having a hope to win, he can trade out the flask with a flask and hopefully not get punished for it. So it should be really interesting to see how it plays out. Again, this will be 1-1 match point. We're working on getting Gouache back in, and it should be very interesting to see what Gouache is going to do to try to counteract this, because I would actually be very surprised if Zawadi utilizes the Dragon Breath on start again. I think that's more of a once per match, throw it in there when they least expect it, and then don't use it again, because now they're forced to play around something that probably isn't going to be there.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting start to this next one. Again, I said it before, I'll say it again. Zawadi is playing off the fact that he's able to change things up so readily. You know, we've seen an Endurable Frenzy come out, which, you know, only needs to come out once to be utilized. And I know in that first match, you know, there wasn't very much play on the side of Zawadi. He wasn't able to get away with much. But in that second match, he was very commanding. And now Gorshwab is going to see an awful lot of his tricks. He's going to have a bit more of a game plan in the back of his mind about how he's going to approach this from the get-go. And, you know, tricks are for kids, unfortunately, LBUs, as someone might say. And if you're not able to adapt on the fly, which is going to be a test here of Gorshwab's, Zawadi has to find other tricks in that back pocket to be able to get really good counters out on it. And if he's able to counter him, I think Gorshwab's has shown in that first round that he's able to do it. So it's going to be an interesting one. We'll find out very, very soon in the opening parts of this next set, and that sets at next stock, how this one is going to pan out.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things. Zawadi's doing a good job of forcing Gouache now to really think about the metagame and not so much play out the game as he wants to. He has to think a lot, and it's going to force almost like a chess match, if you will. It's going to be complete mind games of what is Zawadi going to come up with that I need to now counteract. And when you really look at it again, Zawadi, he has no poise. Any type of status is going to eat right through him. Damage itself is going to burn right through him. But if he's able to keep you away and able to get that damage out from range, it's going to be a real problem, as he is going to be light rolling here as well. So it's one of those things to definitely keep an eye on. We'll have to see when Gouache actually comes in, what we're actually, what type of counteraction we're going to see here. I suspect it'll be the swords again with the ability to swap the Moonveil. Moonveil is a great option against these arcane builds because you get such a guaranteed punish from range, something with for sure worth looking into. And Gouache is showing that as well. It's just a matter of he needs to not lose 1,500 damage to a breath, right?
Yeah, and that's gonna be the challenge very early on here, is again how this opening, the opening move, when Zawadi shows his hand, is going to determine so much of how this next stock is going to go. And I'm going to be super curious as we do see both of our players in and ready to go. LB, you give us the count in.
And a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Ale.
And the bolt is out, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to see Zawadi going for that pressure right out. The Comet is going to come out, not able to do it, is going to be punished here with the Lightning Strike. Here manages to get it that time, though. That's a lot of damage. The Storm Stomp is going to come out, and that's going to be the Frost Breath coming out as we are
he gets countered off of it. Oh no!
Taking the win in style. Zawadi definitely unorthodox in this main bracket all the way across LBU. But it is gonna be Gorshwab's taking the win there. I didn't know how that Frost Breath was going to be encountered. Was Gorshwab's gonna panic and roll out? Mm-hmm. No, he rolled in, managed to get the L1, got the Frost proc. I think would he have killed him without the frost proc on those couple of L1s? I don't think so. I think it was the frost proc that actually was the thing to take him down.
Proc, and again, I want to point out he only hit him like one time prior to that. The no armor from the side of Zawadi is really making those statuses so hard to deal with. As you see there, I mean, he can afford to get hit about 3 times and he's dead. So
yeah,
it's something he definitely wants to consider as he moves forward. But as you see, if he's able to get the roll catch or get the poise break rather on that dragon breath, he wins, right?
Yeah.
I think I would have rather seen, instead of going for that particular breath, I would have rather seen the AoE dragon attack, the scream of the roar, if you will.
Yes.
That would have poise broke Gorshwab. That would have forced him to back up. It would have forced him back, and it would have been really interesting to see. So perhaps we will see that working into some more of his matches in the future. But we are looking at the bottom of our round 2, which is going to be Franel and Snapcaster. Snap was rocking that 2-handed thrusting sword. I want to say Franel was utilizing the coated sword, so this should be a really interesting matchup. I would actually give coated a bit of an advantage in this matchup just because the sheer DPS is going to be a little bit stronger and it can afford to take those traits a little bit. So Snap's going to have to play really cautiously utilizing that. Hopefully we'll get to see the axe used for something this time.
I'm super curious what the axe is in his back pocket for. That's something that I'm still not quite sure what the point of it is. Is it fashion? Is it part of the drip, LB? Is that what's going on here? I'm not so sure.
I don't think so, because he's using mushroom helm. But perhaps it's some type of it's got to be some type of swap. I'm just curious what it is, but hopefully we'll get to see it as we do a Franel on the left, Snapcaster on the right, and this is a 3-2-1 Ale.
Out goes the bolt, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to see the beast roar right off the bat. Almost gets a double punish here, only getting one, as we do finally see. Oh, he interrupts the black flame protection, which is going to come in clutch here, as we do see the 2-handed thrusting sword here. Out comes another rancor pot here, not able to land it. Out comes again, keeping that pressure up, as you know, Snapcaster is going to be forced back, and that's going to be the coated doing an awful lot of damage, but not enough, as it is going to be Snapcaster taking that first round. And oh my word, not quite how that matchup is usually going to go, LB. What are your thoughts on that round?
Well, what's interestingly about that matchup, I actually had the pleasure of dueling Yuzu a little bit just this morning, and we were messing around with 2-handed thrusting, and he tried a few different builds. I tried a few different setups, and what I realized on coated specifically was one of the few straight swords that I actually felt a pretty good advantage on. Simply if I was able to play around the trades and only take the ones I could afford to take. So what I mean by that is you need to make sure you have that damage ramped up. You need to make sure your coateds are in prime burst area, and then you can afford to poise trade with them, and their backswing is going to do a lot more damage than the 2 thrusts are going to do. The difference that we saw there is that Franel, I mean, obviously probably doesn't have a whole lot of experience fighting the 2-handed thrusting. It's a very underused setup. And what you see there is Snapcaster utilizing the poise counting really well, going for 2 pokes, getting out, going for 2 pokes, getting out. And Franel just had a really hard time getting around that. I think with time, Franel probably will understand exactly how to play this. But of course, Snapcaster is not some, random summon from Main Academy Gate. He knows what he's doing. He's a very clean, fundamental player, and that's going to make this, a little bit trickier for Franel as well. It's not just getting out the setup; it's figuring out the player as well. Snapcaster's not a very easy player to get around, to read, to understand what they're going to do. So it's going to force Franel to really utilize the burst damage he's going to have on these coateds to find some type of damage. I think the Black Flame protection is a good idea, but that Beast Roar is so hard to get those buffs off with. And, Beast Roar on this setup is going to be really tricky to range and get around. So Franel's going to have to figure out a way to beat this setup without utilizing some of those buffs, or just, negate the buff by taking 500 damage. Yeah,
well, that will remain to be seen what he's going to do in this next round, as we have Snapcaster on the near side, Franel on the left, on a 3 and a 2 and a 1, ladies and gentlemen. Ale.
There is the bolt in. The match is underway. We do see the Black Flame traded out for the flask this time, so a really smart utilization of that. But actually gets the flask off too, and Snap doesn't punish that. Good running R2 though, goes for the back poke, unable to land that. There is a bit of a backswing that comes off of these thrusting swords as well. I believe that is a clean rot this time, and not the Anspur. So curious that he is going with that. He's still using Beast Roar and everything on it, so I'm quite curious what the choice is there. Good running attack, tries to find the roll catch. Great reaction comes up on the side of Franel, and there is the Endure on it actually. So that's what he's going to be going for. He's going to be going for those trades. Good jump comes out. That poke attack so fast. Another 258 damage, just sneaks right through, and he's trying to find it. There's the Frost.
Oh,
Bomb.
the Frost.
252 damage comes through, goes for the trade-off of Codage. 310 though on the backswing side, other side of Snapcaster. So Snapcaster playing this so well, and he's not allowing Fran to take those poise trades. He's now playing this much more cautious and much safer. He had the axe out for a second, but I think that was due to a hard swap. He swapped over to the Beastro. I'm guessing he's swapping back over to the Endure now. And let's see what he's going to do against this. We do see these folks coming out, 15 damage from the Fan Daggers. Good roll on that jumping attack to get away from it. Throws the counter jump out for himself. Earning R2 comes in the backswing, spaced out for a poke, 310 to 591. Again, just so fast as that crouch attack there. You look at that. How on earth are you going to react to that? And as he is able to just get away from it, though, is going to be the side of Fran. Phenomenal play there, able to jump that one, but there's those raises that come through. And now you see Snap has the HP to allow those poise trades to come through and finish this one out. So just so well played by Snap there. He danced around Franel with so much rhythm there and just got away from him, finds those poke attacks, finds those counter hits everywhere he can get them, and it can be very frustrating to try to get around that. It's almost like a little mosquito poke, right? It's just constantly there. You miss, you get tickled, you miss, you get tickled, and eventually that adds up. You go for that poise trade in the end, try to finish it out, but he's got the health to take it, and it's GG from there.
You kind of need to be an awful lot more assertive in that matchup, and dual straight swords, especially Codage, you can do 500 or 600 damage easy on every hit, and you win those trades. But having just the amount, those little ticks of damage, sometimes you can sometimes lose track of your health bar. It happens to everyone. You think, oh man, I'm going to go for that advantageous trade, perfect moment, but you're at a huge life disadvantage. And even though you're slow, you're getting it back in like huge swathes. If they space it, if you go for that opportunity and they space it and your read is off, you're just it's just a downward spiral. All of those good opportunities that you may have missed earlier on in the round are just not going to be enough, as we are going to be moving on in this next round. And it's going to be super interesting, as it is going to be Rascals versus Slave Knight Koss. And this is going to be an interesting one. Both of them have been very commanding with their 2 O's. I don't think either of them has dropped a round so far. So this is definitely going to be an interesting beginning to round 3 LBU, as we're slowly but surely, the cream is rising to the top here on this one, LB. And what do you expect? Are we going to see Rascals come out in pretty much the same setups that he usually does? That Moonveil in the back pocket?
Is he's utilizing a different helmet than we've seen in the past. So he usually utilizes at least the Cat Imp helmet, and he's not utilizing that this time around. So I got to say, I'm quite curious what the choice is for that. But regardless, we will see the Moonveil S-Stock Clean Rot, I believe, coming out from the side of Rascals. We are going to see the, it looks like Tree Spears coming out from the side of Koss.
It may very well be, and I'm going to be super curious in this next set as well. Again, neither of them have dropped a stock so far this tourney, which is very impressive. Again, they've been up against some pretty stiff competition across the board, and have played absolutely exceptionally. But it is going to be those Tree Spears by the looks of things, LB. So this is going to be an interesting match. Again, that R1 off of the katana is going to immediately poise break. You of course have the crouch R1s on the katana as well, which can do a really solid job on top of that. It's going to be super interesting as we move across, and it should be pretty interesting how this one is going to pan out. But in this matchup, LB, who do you feel has the advantage? How do you feel this matchup generally runs?
Well, it really depends on if Rascals decides to stay on the shield, stay on the Clean Rod, or throw out the shield, because the shield against Tree Spears is actually a pretty reasonable answer. Tree Spears do have a much harder time than UGS dealing with it. So it's really interesting what we're going to actually see come out. We do see Rascals in the close corner. What's curious to me is the choice of his helmet. He's on the Blood Mask on them.
Yes.
So I'm curious if he did switch things up a little bit and he invested a little bit of Arcane here to maybe get some bleed. This is going to be Trina's coming out. It looks like it is going to be a different helmet. I'm guessing for probably the sake of weight or something along those lines. But looks like we're going to be seeing Trina's into Moonveil swap to try to deal with the Slave Knight Koss Tree Spears. And in 3, 2, 1, Ale.
Now comes the bolt here, ladies and gentlemen. As we are going to see both players going for their physic here, we are going to see the magic resistance increaser coming out here on the side of Costa Liver, of course. We're going to see both players playing a very, very careful neutral game here. Trina's is going to be incredibly useful as we see what seems to be a bit of a mistake here right off the bat on the side of Cost going for that running L1, which is, of course, not going to be punished all that heavily on the side of Rascals here, who's playing this very careful game here towards center, trying to bait out these attacks, trying to bait out a little bit of aggression. Out comes the jumping R1. The rolling L1 is going to come out here on the side of Rascals. Not able to get anything. 260 damage. Rascals is going to soak here. 332. Rascals is going to have to be careful. He's going to have to get that little bit damage, and maybe he might have been smarter going for the Moon Veil with the shield here. Might have been the better play here, as he's really, really held up at the range. 520 damage, hit 780 all in all. Managed to get a little bit of damage here as the crouch L1s are going to come out on the side of Koss here, who's very confidently holding this first round. However, he's going to take 470 damage caught in the corner.
That was actually it was not a sleep counter there. 385 damage off of that. So sometimes when you jump attack, you have one L1 land before the other, and that causes a poise break on the sleep. But it didn't actually look like that happened. But instead, we did see the bolus come out, and the punish was there. And one thing I want to point out with these Trinas, I mean, look how easily Slave Knight Koss is just simply walking around these Trinas without any issue whatsoever. The jump attack still coming out from Rascals there, trying to find issues as much as he can, but there's going to be that counter 598, and Slave Knight Koss is going to take the first stock in a 1.
And that is going to be the first stock that Rascals is going to have dropped this entire tourney, and that's definitely going to be a change of pace for him. He's been very commanding so far all the way through, and it's going to be interesting to see now if that's going to have any bit of effect. Again, having a confidence shaken up when you're on a bit of a streak can be a problem, but we'll see now how this next one is. But you mentioned before how easy it is to just walk out of Trinas, and I want to kind of echo that. The range differential between Trinas, even compared to Coded or compared to the Slender Nobles, is substantial. And even in that matchup with the status pressure you're able to get out, if you optimize your armor, you optimize your talisman sets, you're going to be in a really solid position to be able to deal with those Trinas and deal with that sleep build-up. And we've seen it there was Slave Knight slept once all the way through that. I don't think he even had the optimal armor out.
He was not. Interestingly enough, so I think Rascal's build here with the different fashion we're seeing is to manage status. You probably expected that Ripple Halberd to come out, and there's actually Slave Knight doing the same thing to manage for status. So that's the fashion choice that we saw from Rascal's, was to manage the status build. I'm sure he stacked for some type of focus, maybe some immunity, maybe he expected the poison to come out. And it's going to cause, so you see Slave Knights on these tree spears. So Rascals now has to reconsider this a little bit and properly get into this the best that they can. Yeah, and
it's going to be super interesting as we move forward here in this next round here, because I'm going to be curious to see what changes they're going to make. It does seem as though we're going to see both of them on the exact same setups. We're probably going to see the Ash of War use on the Trinas to try and maximize the amount of sleep you can. And since the patch as well, it's important to recognize if they're hit, they no longer lose the buff, which is going to be incredibly useful here. So both of our opponents are in, ladies and gentlemen, on a 3, on a 2, on a 1. Allez.
And there is our bolt in. The match is underway. We do see the Trinas coming out again from the side of Rascals. Is going to get that buff going, and that is going to cause a lot more status buildup, and that's probably set to now counteract the fact that Koss does have that armor on, and he is prepared for that, but just eats the jump attack for 516 damage there as they continue this forward. The jumping L1 is going to get countered out. 438 from the side of Koss, goes for the roll catch there. The jump attack comes in, but now he's going to have to be careful. Goes for the L1 from neutral. Is going to be the side of Rascals here.
Oof.
Trying to find that damage, but just unable to, as another L1 is going to come out from the side of Rascals. Slave Knight here trying to find a way to punish, but is going to go ahead and just give him that free buff, though, as the jump attack comes out. 268. That Sleep Guard's got to be getting somewhere, but great counter pressure comes out. 520 damage. Goes for the roll catch there. And as they continue it forward here. And this is going to be actually match point against Rascals as well, so he needs to be careful here and not walk into these tree spears. He goes for the L1, unable to land that, as you do see the pressure coming on against, and that's the setup that you got to pressure so cautiously potentially end up, especially when you're looking at such a range deficit. It's just trainers against tree spears, but great counter comes out, 624 damage from the side of Koss here, and Koss is looking pretty comfortable in this. Rascals goes for it, but the jump is 790 to 256. Huge favor. 176 comes out for Koss, so that's a very clean 2-0 from the side of Slave Knight Koss.
A very, very confident round here on the side of Koss, and that's kind of the difference as well. He didn't have to worry quite so much about the status build-up. He had the drip set up and ready to go on it. You know, fashion can go out the window when there's money on the line, ladies and gentlemen. And that's exactly what he did. You know, not having to worry quite as much about that sleep proc, even if it does get a little bit high, he can afford to take those trades. He can pressure just that little bit more. And we've seen it there. Kept pressure across the board. He had the confidence all the way through that to put Rascals away. And it's going to be clear, Slave Knight Koss has not dropped a stock yet. And he's going to be the first one to, number one, put Rascals down into losers bracket, but also to take a stock off him at all. So very impressive stuff here from the side of Koss, and really, really dominating. Do you think maybe the Moonveil shield might have been the play all the way across here, LB? Because it definitely seems like it would have come in much more use all the way across, as this was a best of 3 all the way across. The best of 3 here, ladies and gentlemen. We are of course only in round 3. Semi-finals are of course next set, which we will see Slave Knight Koss move on to. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the bottom end of round 3, and we have a Gorshwabs in the far corner with the Mogs. And it seems that it's going to be Snapcaster, and I can't quite make it out, but we will figure it out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be assuming it's going to be the thrusting sword again on a 3, on a 2, on a 1. LA.
And it looks like it is. They do see the Beast Roar immediately punishing 326 on the flask of the side of Gouache here. You do see another Beast Roar coming out. It is going to be the Scarlet Rot setup with that Keen Ant Spur here. 300 damage into 321 off, or 521 rather, off the back poke of that. You see that poke coming through and immediately taking a bolus and getting away. So really well played from Gouache there to get away from this status. There's going to be the Ash of War trying to find it, but the Beast Roar comes in, able to cancel that one out and get away. He does have a bit of a bleed buff now. 419 damage. Oh, is he trying to find it? He does find a little bit. 356 into 390, but 1521. I don't know if that Beast Roar was worth it, as you do see Snapcaster now in about even terms of health as he throws another Beast Roar out. Gouache tries to find it. The poach attack comes in. 530 to 795 is roll catch. He's got to be careful. He's got to get away. Here's the running attack. Gets a little bit of anti-air there. As you do see, I believe there was a tear pop coming through there. Some damage coming through now. Gouache is at such a high advantage in terms of health. Snapcaster needs to figure out a way to pull this one back, as you do see the seal coming in the offhand there. Probably looking for a catch lane or a bestial sling of something. That actually throws the fan daggers out. 30 damage. The jump attack comes into 466, 482. The Beast Roar trying to find it there, but I believe that is out of FP. Oh no, he's got to be careful. He's got to have a way to punish this out. You see 594. That damage is taking. The jump attack comes through. The crouch attack coming out from the side of Gouache here. What a close match. He's able to get that off though, and now he's resetting to a little bit, but the pokes there from Snapcaster. What a pullback. Snapcaster takes 2-1.
What? That is an incredible one. Snapcaster takes that win by the skin of his teeth. So very close as it came out there. And you know, I think you asked the question, was that Beast Roar worth it? I don't think it was. I think he thought he spaced it. I think he thought he rolled out. He was in that safe zone in this arena. Again, you are going to be punished for any of these big Ashes of War that you do. The startup and the recovery on Mogs is pretty nuts. And Snapcaster thought, I'm going to roll out. I'm going to get this Beast Roar. Just miscalculated and almost costed them the match. I think he was maybe a fan dagger, maybe 2 fan daggers away from death. And he just about managed to pull through. Got that really confident jump R2 off, and then just kept up the pressure and eventually put him away. The poison proc come in here. We seen a bolus on the side of Gorshwabs. I think he took the wrong bolus. I think he went for... Did he go for a frost one? Did he actually get the right bolus off? I don't think so. We'll have to watch.
He did at the end there.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe he did get the right. I thought he did at least, but the poke off the side of Snap was just a little bit too fast.
Was just a little bit too fast.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with the thrusting sword, right? You do sacrifice some things to run that thrusting sword, but you get so quick. Your attacks are just so incredibly fast off of it. You have to be careful with that. So looks like Gouache is actually Still running the same weapon, but looks like a different helmet. So I'm curious if we are going to see some type of swap coming through here. But looks like both of our contestants are in, working on getting them in the right respective corner. We will have Gwoosh down 0 to Snapcaster 1 on the right. And if you can do us the pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, on a 3, on a 2, and a 1, Ale.
There is that bolt. We are all set and underway. We will see a flask traded out for both players. The Beast Roar is going to come out a little bit late there. Gwoosh is going to get that off as the couch comes through, but see 241 to 515 actually punishes out for 297, goes for the immediate, and there's the Beast Roar from range. So is going to go ahead and immediately take a bolus there as well and just get Gwoosh down in terms of status. So, Snap down. So Gwoosh playing the status game really, really well here. It'll be tricky to see if he actually does get a proc through. The jumping R2, interesting choice on the 2 and Great Spear there, is able to roll away from that Beast Roar, so good utilization of that. And now trying to find a pressure in is going to be decided Gwoosh, but Snap's going to run away. The running attack comes out, immediately goes for that Asher War to punish it. Oh, and he does find it, 511 to 411, but health still in favor of Snapcaster by a good margin here. Let's see if he can't figure this out. You see, have one large, very, very large thrusting weapon to a very small thrusting weapon. We'll see which one actually plays out here. Good space get the jump R2 though for 561, but trades it out into 525. Misses that one though. We do see a tier proc on each side. The Beast Roar is going to punish for 1119 in total is the damage with that rot there. So phenomenal play from Snapcaster, really utilizing that status. And now Gwoosh needs to be careful. Pivot comes out, but able to get away from the Beast Roar in terms of range there. Now tries to find a way to aggress this. We do see a bleed status coming out, a bleed bullets coming out from the side of Snap here. So this is a pretty much reset in terms of status and everything else. The jump R1's going to come out from the side of Snap. A crouch R1 comes out, unable to land that one, but keeps the pressure forward. It does land that one for 226. The jump R2 comes out, runs through that one. The Beast Roar for the punish to the side of Snap. Snap is playing this much cleaner now in this second half here. So Gwoosh trying to find a way. He's going to take the Beast Roar over 276, and that is going to be Snap cleaning this one up in a 2-0 victory.
And what a set that was. You described the way that thrusting sword works earlier on, LB, like a mosquito just annoying you, slowly but surely chipping you down little by little. And that's exactly what happened. True, you had the Beast Roar, and Beast Roar is very, very a powerful tool. It's one of the fastest projectiles in the game, and pretty much any build is allowed to use it. There's maybe a couple of exceptions, but for the damage, pound for pound, Beast Roar is an amazing choice to use for how quickly it can punish. And we've seen it again from Snapcaster. Thought he was safe, thought he was able to, break the poise of Gorshwabs. Not only on that, but also managed to get the little bit of damage in, and did get the bleed proc in the wind up with it, didn't seem like a good trade, but given how much he had chipped Gorshwabs down all the way across, really, really solid play here on the side of Snapcaster. And I have to say, well played to both of our contestants. We will be seeing what Gorshwabs is able to do in the losers bracket, as he is going to be fighting Nibri. And it's not over for Snapcaster, as he is going to be seeing the fight here against Slave Knight Koss. This is going to be an exciting match, and I'm going to be curious if the thrusting sword is going to make an appearance here in this last set, or what our opponents are going to, what both of them are going to be using. But do you have any thoughts, closing thoughts on that last match?
That match was actually, again, we're doing a great job. We're seeing from the side of Snapcaster showing how strong that thrusting sword actually is, and it's quite impressive to say the least how well we're seeing that utilization of it. Is very interesting too, is he's not utilizing the poise resets of Storm Stomp and things like that. Instead, he's going to be utilizing just the pure status and the Beast Roar to punish that. He's doing a really good job with the Beast Roars too. He's very, very tricky for these opponents to actually get around it. And Gwoosh he had the right idea a few times. He had a lot of pressure on him with that Great Spear. The difference is he's using a poise break weapon. He's allowed to take those trades now because he doesn't have to worry about that little back poke, right? He did a really good job of that. It just unfortunately was not clean enough for these players here. And Snapcaster was able to just keep his composure. One thing with Snapcaster today, he's playing phenomenally well. And his spacing is on point. His decision making is on point. Everything he's doing is just so well thought out and everything here, and it's just showing so well. So with him versus Slave Knight, I actually think we're going to see a Colossal Sword versus the Thrusting Sword, and I would be inclined, based on how Snapcaster's playing, to give him the advantage in this one.
Yeah, it's going to be super. I'm going to be super curious to see how this next one is going to go. And neither of these players, we're going to see another one of these matches, neither of these players have dropped a stock in the Elmich versus Snapcaster, not a stock. Franel versus Snapcaster, nothing. Gorshwab's here, not a stock is gone. And the same with Koss. Both of these players have yet to be defeated, and I think whoever's going to get that first round is going to have a huge advantage. And again, this is going to be our first of the best of fives LBU. That's going to be pretty important as well. You know, both of our players have a little bit more wiggle room, have a little bit more of an opportunity to play around with how people are going to fight, and that's going to be pretty interesting moving forward.
Yeah, and it actually looks like we're going to jump into the losers brackets here, Enda. So we're going to see actually Rascals and Alucard fighting each other here in this losers round 4. So it looks like that is the direction that we are going with this one. Should be really interesting. So we aren't quite to best of 5s yet. We are going to see these loser round 4s go through, and then we will see the losers round 5.
Yeah, it seems as that's going to be the way of it, LBU, and I'm going to be super excited to see how these next few rounds are going to go. And, you know, looking at this here, we have, of course, Rascals versus Alucard in this first set, and then we have Gorshwabs versus Nibri. That should be pretty exciting as we're on the first part of round 4 here. You know, both of these players, you know, Alucard has moved his way through losers bracket all the way from round 1. You know, we're seeing a repeat of the PC tournament, you know, Bevan getting knocked out in the first round. And could he be the one to take Rascals down? Again, Rascals has been very dominant in the winners bracket, and I think this is his first showing here in the losers, you know. I'm super curious how this one is going to do.
Yeah, and Alucard had a rough go against Slave Knight in the first round that we saw there, but he's obviously pulled himself together and ran the whole losers bracket up to this point. So, you know, Nibri has also done the same thing. He went into losers round 2, and he'll be in our next set of round 4 here for the losers. So it should be really, really interesting to see that play out. But I would be inclined to give the advantage to Rascals here. He is a pretty, you know, I would say through and through each one of these players probably has a slightly better advantage in terms of pure fundamentals. However, Alucard is no one to shake your head at, right? He's a very clean player. We did get to see that, you know, expression of that in his first round, and obviously he's done a really good job running through this losers bracket and doing a great job of that. So I'm really excited to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, it should be really, really interesting. Again, like, we've not seen what Alucard has been able to do so far, but you know, to be able to win your way through, you know, he fought Franel in the losers round 2. He fought Zawadi as well. Ended up taking out, you know, had some really, really solid showings here all the way across the board. And I'm going to be super curious to see how this set is going to go. But do you imagine that Rascals is going to break out the Moonveil again, going to dual straight swords onto Moonveil? Or do you imagine he's going to use some other kind of a setup, LB?
No, I mean, we kind of saw him already utilizing those rot swords. I mean, we had them out at least, and I suspect that's what we're going to see against Alucard, and he's going to utilize that status to allow him to get that Moonveil off. It's a very strong setup, and it's not something, again, I mean, low lat does not cause issues for that, so it's definitely something worth taking an eye on, and it's going to allow him to get those Moonveil punishes, and I do think it's a really strong setup, and he plays it rather well, so he's definitely been putting time into other setups, which is nice to see. It's always fun to see these players that are known for a specific setup switch things up a bit and use something a little bit different. And can you remind me, Alucard was utilizing, I believe it was a Moonveil build, correct?
I believe so, and I believe he got really unfortunately pushed around the place in that first round with the, you know, the Sleepy Halberd, which of course can do an awful lot of damage, but you know, it's going to be kind of interesting to see in this next set. Like, is it? Yeah, I believe it was. I think you were on the money with the Moonveil build. It can be incredibly powerful, but when the other person has the ability to like aggress you constantly and keep that pressure, not only status pressure but also like actual damage, it's going to be super curious to see how this next one is going to go, LB. But we do have both of our opponents in the field as we speak, ladies and gents. On a 3, on a 2, on a 1, allez.
And here our bolt is going to come. We are going to see Rascals on those straight swords. We are going to see Alucard actually on the spears here. So really interesting choices going for the 49 poise, claiming harpoons versus the straight swords here. So should be curious to see how this one plays out. I would be inclined It's actually a relatively even matchup when you look at it on paper, but it's one of those things that depends on your ability to poise count on the spears. If you can poise count correctly, you have a really good opportunity to get some huge counter damage in. It throws out that running attack. It's countered out for 343, but there's that big 582 counter L1 that we're talking about there, and so a lot of damage comes through there. And Rascals definitely needs to think this through. It's going to be hard for him to play super aggressive into this. He needs to be smart in the trades that he does take. But there's the Moonveil for the anti-air. Great swap for 99 damage comes through there through the tier proc. The Moonveil swap for 291 from the side of Rascals. Tries to get it in there, but the roll comes through from Alucard, goes to the punish as well. The heavy comes through there. The heavy traded out again, and we do see again 653 coming out from Alucard. So Alucard has switched his setup a little bit up here, and now he's really showing, it's interestingly, he's using the Moonveil against the Moonveil player. He's going to get that blue juice out, and he's able to get away from the jump attack as well. The running L1 coming out from the side of Alucard here, really trying to keep this pressure forward. The jump attack from the side of Rascals, the L1 from the Harpoons again from the side of Alucard, able to chain those together. Rascals able to get away from it entirely. He's got to be careful. As the lower health he gets, it means he cannot take these trades and utilize his poise, which is going to be a very tricky matchup for him from here on out. Good roll, though, comes out from Rascals. Good spacing on that one. The jump attack's going to land 686 damage, trying to keep that Scarlet Rot up as much as possible. As we do see Alucard now just trying to keep this pressure, but there's going to be 582 on the side of Rascals. Rascals really needs to be careful here now. The Moonveil comes out, trying to find the punish there, goes for the heavy, but Rascal's able to reaction roll that, goes for the light. Rascal able to reaction roll that one, so really close right here through and through. Now the Fan Daggers are coming out, 10 more damage, but we do see the blue feathers, so it's going to counter out this Fan Dagger spam a little bit.
Yeah, and that blue feather is going to come in clutch here in this one, because at least now he doesn't have to worry quite so much about the incredible... Oh, out comes the Moonveil here, forcing him back into the corner. Dual straight swords back out again. We haven't seen a rot proc on Alucard yet, and that's going to be something that, Rascals have to be super careful as he's forced to roll out once again, ladies and gentlemen. Out comes another set of Fan Daggers, changing it up now for the Gravity Fans, getting that blue out, however, will be punished.
Huge, as we do see the phalanx now coming out from Alucard here on this, so it's going to be enough, a little bit of chip damage if you can get those to land. It's also going to offer poise break for him, but doing a really good job of stretching this one out. But oh no, there is the attack from the side of Alucard, and that is going to be Rascals falling right there, and that is going to be a 1-0 lead in favor of Alucard.
Yeah, again, that's an interesting turn of events here, as we, I would have thought that the dual straight sword had a bit of an advantage, because from what I've seen of dual spears so far, since, we've added an awful lot more of them back in, is you have to play super passive with them. You have to play super careful. You have very low poise. You can't really aggress with impunity. I know an awful lot of us have seen from early on in this game, we still... we look at dual spears and we think in our heads, full go to dual cross Nagy's coming at you, and it's not quite that anymore. We now have, the poise limit there. Definitely, it definitely makes it a much easier setup to try and approach, because you get that guaranteed poise break. A stray R1, if he's pressured on the side of Rascals, can poise break him. Simple as, no if, buts, or maybes about it.
Right.
But the raw damage that Alucard is able to just throw out, he has to respect it for that reason. And, maybe we might see the katanas coming out here on the side of Rascals. That might be the play. Katanas are very, very good, especially Kibas are incredibly powerful against those setups. It can be incredibly useful, but we'll see what's going to happen here. Those low poise setups can definitely take it by surprise if you don't respect them, and the amount of DPS that is at Alucard's disposal may come in clutch.
Absolutely, and those, like you pointed out with those power stance spears, it becomes a poise counting game, right? And it's a matter, you have to play passive, take the pokes when you can get them, chain those into the running attacks, trade when you can break poise, etc. And we will see how well Rascals is able to adapt to that. We have both of our players in. Rascals down 0 to Alucard 1 on the right end, if you can count us in.
Ladies and gentlemen, on a 3, on a 2, on a 1, allez.
And here goes the bull. Our match is underway. We will see traded out. It looks like we are going to see just a full Moonveil swap coming out from Rascals now. He's going to put the straight swords away and go for that Moonveil S-stock here, which is definitely a smart maneuver. But 582, the damage comes out from the side of Alucard. just a little bit wrong in terms of spacing is the side of Rascals. You see he's forced to roll that one. He's not going to make that mistake again here, trying to corner pressure now. He is going to get him in the corner. Let's see if he's able to do off that. The roll's coming out there. Oh, no, not the best roll to react, but unable to land. But there's a good trade comes in for 604, but huge health advantage still in favor of the side. Oh, no, the move out swap comes through. Now we're going to see even healthier. The roll comes out from the side there. Rascals able to roll that one. We do see the blue spam just coming out left and right from both sides here. Able to get away pretty scot-free as everybody though waiting for that roll. Now Rascals goes for the roll catch. There it is. Goes for the combo there. Actually able to build the frost up as well off of that S-stock there. The roll comes out though very clean there. Goes for the trade out of the Moonveil, able to roll that one. Really good reaction there comes out from Rascals to get away from that. And Rascals is going to have a bit of an upper hand here in the Moonveil match. It would seem though Alucard forces back a little bit, and now Rascals is going to reset for a neutral. The blue's going to come through on both sides. Now they're kind of resetting here a little bit. The frost bullets comes out. Rascals a little slow to punish that. There's going to be the L1, goes for the roll catch there, able to get away from that one. It's going to be the side of Alucard trying to find the pressure forward here. Throws it out, but he's going to miss that one. There's the true combo. Rascals is going to pull this one back into a 1-1.
Now forcing a match point in this one, ladies and gentlemen. And, some really interesting mind games coming out there, trying to find that timing for the roll catches. Setting up the Moonveil. We've seen so many particle effects. I'm not even sure if my monitor's ever going to recover from it, LB, to be perfectly honest with you. But in that matchup there, the off-stock is so powerful because if you can poise count it correctly, if you get like a couple of fan daggers out to try and get that poise counting down, you can get that stun, and that's going to be much, much more powerful. And it'll remain to be seen. It will remain to be seen how this one is going to pan out, ladies and gents, as we are getting our players back in again. 1-1 match point. Tensions are going to be very, very high here in this one. Are our players going to be worried about the stress here in this one? That's the real question.
Yeah, I think this is the point where tourney nerves are really starting to pick up here, Enda. You're looking at, both of these players are now one loss away from dropping out of the tournament entirely. So they got to be smart. They got to be careful. They got to know what they're doing as they continue this out here. So, Alucard had a good quick win over Rascals, but Rascals gets his composure together, pulls out his, comfortable Moonveil pick. You and I have always said, regardless of what's going to beat everybody, on their own, you can take a look at having something, like the comfort pick to come out. Regardless of how the matchup looks, the comfort pick is going to be important. And it looks like both of them are going to go for a comfort pick here. So we do see the full, not quite full goats, but something along those lines from the side of Alucard against Rascals here as our Moonveil mirror is underway. We have a 1-1, ladies and gentlemen. Rascals on the left, Alucard on the right, and in a 3-2-1, Ale.
And out comes the bolt here, ladies and gentlemen, as we do see both of them are going to go for the physic here. We're seeing the fan daggers coming out here, which are going to come incredibly useful here as we see the S-stock coming out here. Managed to get the poise break. Rascals takes the aggression here, goes to the R1 to try and get the poise break. Manages to put him away right off the bat, and we see Rascals take the win. Blink and you'll miss it, ladies and gentlemen. The raw DPS here that came out on the side of Rascals, who did an absolute amazing job. Just like Frost proc left, the Moonveil roll catch right. Chaotic, to say the very least, as Rascals is going to move on.
I think what we see there too is that, Rascals goes over for the Moonveil. Again, he goes for that comfort pick. Alucard decides to mirror that pick, and it really is in favor of Rascals there. And he just plays that a lot cleaner fundamentally, and that's going to give him the ability to win that one. And that will move him on to losers round 5, which again is going to give him the opportunity to get best of 3s in, and really get an opportunity to get back up to that losers bracket, or that winners bracket rather, and get himself a shot at that win.
Yeah, and now we have, of course, Gorshwab versus Nibri here in losers round 4. And that's going to be a pretty interesting round, I feel. Nibri is another one of these players who got knocked out early and has just come all the way through here on the losers bracket. Gorshwab's had a very poor showing against Snapcaster, but we may see it here again. Very, very strong players who, have been doing a really, really good job, but he's only, before being knocked into losers, he'd only dropped one set against Zawadi, and that's simply for the fact that he did not have the tools at his disposal. He didn't have the tools ready to deal with that Dragon Incant in that one set. We're not going to see that this time. He's definitely a bit more settled in, but we do have both of our players here at Gorshwab's in the far left corner. Nibri on the right. Ladies and gentlemen, on a 3, on a 2, and a 1. Allez.
And here comes the bull. It looks like we are going to see immediate buffs coming out from both of these players so they can try to continue at this forward. We do see the straight sword. Is that a straight sword mirror coming out, I believe? So interestingly enough, we're seeing the poison helm coming out as the air is going to be, it's going to be offhand. Okay. We're doing offhand Scarlet Rot, main hand broadsword. It's going to give him the opportunity to get the best damage he can. Very good Scarlet Rot buildup, as well as having an Ash of War. But the jump attack's going to come through. There's that proc 947, but the Codids are there to trade it out from the side of Nibri. But Nibri does have to be careful here. If the Wish decides to just play a little bit more cautious throughout this, he can win this entirely. The Bestial Sling coming out, another little bit of damage chips through. Nibri needs to take a bolus here, and he's in very dire need of it. Yep. He's got to find some damage to take a bolus. He gets a little too aggressive, and Gawash just does a phenomenal job. Pure fundamentals there. Plays around, understands the point well enough to take the trades, to get that proc off, gets the AR buff, gets the damage rolling, and it's really hard for Nibri to come back from that.
It's going to be a rough one here on the side of Nibri, and, you know, going for those really nasty trades is perhaps not what Nibri needed to do, especially given that there was some status involved, you know. Having that status changes how those trade interactions really play out. True, you get the good damage, but if you're not aware, you're going to get that rot. And if he's low damage, he's going to want to play a little bit more cautiously anyway.
Right.
And we've seen it there, you know, getting that rot proc off, being very low, just not a good combination, not a very good combination at all, especially when your opponent is going to want to play that a little bit safer moving forward. And, you know, well played to everyone there. Very, very well played. And we'll see how this next set develops in this set.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, which is trading is really not the play against these status builds, and Gawash is going to have the opportunity to utilize the Beast Roar as well as a really good punish on the bolus, which means that Nibri can't really afford to take the trades for rot. He needs to play smart here and utilize his huge rage advantage that he has and a very high DPS advantage. He just needs to leverage that in his favor. He needs to slow the fight down a little bit, and I think if he does that, Nibri, we've seen how well he plays these coded swords. If he's able to pull this back a little bit and just calm down and play nice and safe, he should have a very clean win over Gawish in terms of just range and sheer damage. So it's a matter of if he's able to do that, or if his aggressive play style is going to kind of overcome that. So we'll see how it plays out. We have Gawish on the left. We have Nibri on the right, a 1-0 lead. And if you can count us in.
Ladies and gentlemen, on a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Ali. Out comes the bolt here, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to see the Black Flame Protection coming out here on the side of Nibri, and we're going to see a quick chug on the side of Gorshwab's as he's moving in, keeping that aggressive posturing. Same kind of tempo in as the last stock here, as he is going to take a little bit of chip damage here from these codeds. Again, he's going to be at a slight range disadvantage here as he goes to the Endure to stay in to get these trades, and not managing to get the rot procced here on that exchange, and that's maybe going to cost him, as you know, Nibri here has the damage, has raw damage output. It's the status interaction that's going to be different, and that's what we're going to see. We're going to see that raw damage take advantage in this stock here with a 1-1, forcing a match point here in this set, LBU, and what an exchange we've seen there all the way across. I mean, not getting that rot is really what caught Gorshwab's in that round, I feel. That's my own personal take. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's one of those things is, again, Nibri has such a advantage in terms of which swords he's using that if he's able to negate the rot, he will absolutely win off of that advantage on its own, especially with Nibri being a very good PSSS player. He understands how to play the matchup quite well, and we saw that in the last match. The first match, he got a little too aggressive. He wanted to get a little trade heavy, and it cost him, it cost him the round. But now in this stock, he's able to kind of pull it back, be cautious in how he's moving things, get his ramp up, get his burst when he does take the trade, and that's the difference that you're going to see. Broadswords do good damage, but they are not coded damage. They do so much in every bit of damage that they get. So it's quite interesting to see how this actually plays out between these two. But if Nibri plays it the same way, I think it's a very clean win for him to get the chance to go back up against Rascals here and try to win this out. But Gawish has been fighting a really good tournament here. His first drop was against Snapcaster, who is very, very clean player fundamentally that we've seen. So he gets the chance to continue on what he was able to do. And it looks like Nibri is going to give him a bit of a wall, though. So he's got to be careful with his utilization of these straight swords. He can't get too aggressive. He does have to play.
Yeah.
He can't allow Nibri to sit back and get punishes off. So that means he has to aggress, but in a very smart way. And that's very tricky to do.
Yeah, and that raw aggression, he's kind of counting on the fact he's going to get that status pressure on after those trades. But, as Nibri kind of realizes, like, yo, I could just out DPS this dude. If I swap the talisman, make sure I have my resistance is nice and high, it just means that I can do it. And the Black Flame protection might have come in clutch there as well on the side of Nibri as well. That definitely would help, again, getting rid of any of that. Because, again, it's going to be a physical build. Having the ability to get that little bit of physical absorption a little bit higher, it's going to make a difference as well. And we're just going to have to see moving forward in this next stock and how it's going to pan out. But if you're in Gorshwab's shoes, what are you thinking? What are you going to try and be looking for here to try and punish on the side of Nibri? Especially considering an out DPS.
You have to play right now in the PSSS mirror. There is kind of a little bit of a neutral game you can play with jumps of throwing the jumps out and then jumping, but just not quite as far as you want to try to punish and stuff like that, right? It almost creates as much of a neutral skip that jumps are. It does kind of create a little bit of a neutral in this mirror specifically, because you both have such a strong neutral skip. So the neutral skip just becomes your neutral, right? So it's really interesting how it actually plays out. And Gouache just needs to play that neutral a little bit better. He needs to play the jumps a little bit better. He needs to chain jumps. Chaining jumps is it's very strong to get away from, but especially when you're using status, those chain jumps are gonna phantom hit at least one of them. And if you're able to get 2 or 3 chain jumps in a row, take a step back, win the neutral out to get 2 or 3 chain jumps again, now Nibri's going to be struggling. He's going to have a lot of buildup going, and he's not going to have a lot of ramp up that he would have had otherwise. So I think that's the win condition for Gouache here, is to really play the jumps in the best way he can to try to get as much status buildup as possible, because the truth of the matter is, straight sword for straight sword, Nibri has the advantage, so Gouache needs to play off that status.
Yeah, and playing off that status is, again, we've seen it in that first round, LB, getting that status off against Nibri, really, both of them were quite low, but if you're staying engaged within the fight, staying in that little pocket where you can actually get that damage in, but the other person can't ballast and you can just play off of that, it works beautifully. That's what you're aiming for, but you have to get that, you have to guarantee that you're going to get that proc off. If you don't, you're in a world of hurt, as was shown in that last set. And there you have it. We are going to have our players in now in just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm going to be curious to see if that raw damage on Nibri is going to be enough to really carry him through. That's going to be the curious thing. Or if kind of the much more smarter play on the side of Gorshwab is going to carry through. That's the question that is going to be on everyone's lips on this one. That is what it is going to be, and we're going to find out in the very near future, as we do have both of our players in. LB, are you at the ready?
I am all set.
All right, on a 3 and a 2 and a 1, match point. Ale.
Yes, that is right, and we are in. Match point is now underway. Good Bestial War comes out for 222 damage, but the so Black Flame protection is still going to be there. Trades it out with the Flask, though, is going to be the side of Gouache, so he does have a bit of an advantage there. It looks like we are going to be utilizing the same setup hand in hand from each one of these players here, as he's trying to find a way to aggress these. First one's going to land this actually just dual Rot Swords there, so he has foregone having the Ash of War. He is just going to use the dual Rot Swords for the severe damage, I'm sure, 860 into 500, so now you're seeing Gouache is starting to play this a little bit cleaner here, but he doesn't want to give too much opportunity for them to let that Scarlet Rot settle, but he does have enough health advantage. He can choose to get away from it. Good L1. That was, again, the pressure that I'm talking about that Nibri's able to do there, is he gets that neutral jump but doesn't take it, baits out the punish instead. Good attempt for the backswing there from the side of Gouache. Nibri with the same idea of punishing there, so we're seeing a really clean PSSS mirror come out from these players. The jump L1, not quite able to land from Nibri there, but is going to force Gouache back. The trade, you see him anticipating there with the jump. Good punish, though. 354. Gouache now has Nibri on the back foot, so he's actually just utilizing his just pure ability to play the PSSS mirror against Nibri here. 788 damage, though. Those codeds do not mess around, and he's got to be careful. That jump attack nearly landing, able to space it out, though. The L1 does not go for the backswing now. It's outside of Nibri. Nibri trying to find a way in. The neutral comes out with a good jump, but the punish comes in from the side of Gouache, and that's going to be a 2-1 victory for Gouache, and that will put him up against Rascals in our first best of 5.
what an exceptional showing here from both players. Gorshwab's played that an awful lot cleaner. We didn't see those messy trades that we could have seen in other sets, but you know, he definitely altered his play accordingly based off the fact that Nibri just wasn't getting that rock proc, adapted accordingly.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen. We're taking a look at losers round 5 here. It's going to be Rascals on the left, Gawush on the right. We're going to see that Moonveil versus those straight swords and a 3-2-1 Ale.
Out goes the bolt here, ladies and gentlemen, as we are going to see the Divine Fortification here against the Moonveil here, which is, of course, going to buff his absorption against the magic, as we are going to see the Rot swords with a single. Is that a Nobles or a Broadsword? I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Broadsword with the offhand being the Crystal Rot. The S-Stock folks coming through there quite well from Rascals. That is also the Magic Fortification.
Magic Fortification, sorry.
You see the Frost Rock coming there. A nice little Moonveil trick. So good trick from Rascals there, reducing the Frost coming out. That's going to get punished. There's the tier pop there. If you're looking for it, there's the roll. Able to get away from it, though, as the L1's going to come through. The S-Stock poke for 159 is there, though, from the side of Rascals. And now Rascals is jumping out the straight swords himself. He said, hey, I got the mix up on the Moonveil. I'm just going to go ahead and mirror you now and finish it out that way. So really good. We'll get to see exactly how this is going to play out. A good trade from the jump comes through from the side of Rascals. Tries to get the punish on the side of Gawush as the backswing there, and Rascals just cleans that one up quite well for a 1-0 lead.
A dominating 1-0 lead there, and I have to say, like, Rascals using that aggression, getting the burst damage off of the Moonveil, and then switching off onto the dual straight swords to try and get that finishing attack here, because he knows his opponent is waiting for it now. He knows that he has the ability to roll that Moonveil. I mean, if you've gotten this far in the tournament, I'd assume you'll be able to roll Moonveil.
Right.
And, you know, just manages to get the burst in early enough that he's allowing himself to that aggression at the end, which his opponent is already going to be pressured. He's already going to be worried about how low the health bar is, and we've seen it there. Managed to clean it up relatively cleanly. Got a couple of hits on him there. Kind of took a few more risks than he otherwise ought to have. But that's the advantage of getting that burst in early, LB. It gives you that freedom to be able to be that aggressive and push in and do the damage you need to do.
Absolutely, and one other thing too with swapping those swords at the end is that even if Gawush allows himself now to play more passively and not give the trades to Rascals, he's going to get that status build up. Yeah. And in the event that both of them get practice, they're both running status, that's a huge advantage for Rascals. He can just simply sit and wait, for that damage to take him down. So Rascals is going to be starting out on the Moonveil S-Stock. It would appear here again. And, with the cold on that S-Stock, it does build up relatively faster. Clean Rot is the proper terminology or the proper weapon, but, the DS3 brain of me says S-Stock, and I see a thrusting sword. So you're going to see the Moonveil thrusting sword, rather. But yeah, so you're going to get a lot of cold build-up on that as well, and that's going to allow him to get that cold proc into the Moonveil. It's a really good, again, it's a trick that a lot of Moonveil players are using. Rascals very, very well comfortable with it, and Gawush needs to figure a way around that. And it's kind of tricky as well. If you're in the face of Moonveil, the reaction becomes a lot less realistic, and that's the thing is it's really easy to walk into the Moonveil player, and that's exactly what they want. As long as they're able to either take the trade with you or force a roll. If they just Moonveil from neutral there and you're in their face, it's very unlikely you're going to roll that off sheer reaction. It's going to have to be a prediction of some sort. Rascals knows that, so he does a really good job of mixing those in and getting those damages, because you see as soon as Gawush gets maybe 2 feet away from him, the rolls are right there clean every single time. So Rascals does a good job of playing with him into him, knowing that he's so low that he doesn't want to waste Moonveil around. He's going to go ahead, play fundamentals, get those straight swords out. So we'll see how well Gawush flips this one around, if at all.
Yeah, it's going to be curious. Again, the Rascals very dominating in that first round. That's kind of half the battle, really, is like showing that, you are allowed to bully your opponent in that first round. Oh, interesting. We see the Lance. Interesting. Changing the setup is the side of Garawash, as we now have both of our opponents in, ladies and gentlemen, on a 3, on a 2, and a 1. LA.
And here comes the bolt in Our round 2 is underway. We do see the magic fortification traded out from the flash on the side of Rascals. He's going to go ahead and try to punish that a little bit too slow. I think he probably could have punished it off reaction had he used the heavy, but we do see the great spears now coming out from the side of Gawush. So he is going to go ahead with the phalanx on these great spears. This is going to be trickier for Rascals to get around. The jump attack comes out. Oh, the trade in favor, though. 796 is going to land against Rascals there. So really good utilization of that jump attack from the side of Gawush. You can see Rascals clearly did not expect that to come out. So very good utilization of that jump attack. The S-Stock poke comes off from neutral from the side of Rascals into the Moonveil swap there. As you do see now, he's just going to play it back, and that's exactly what he's going to do against this setup. As though he runs it a little bit. The reaction just missed, as he does take 602 damage on that little bit of a combo as the jump comes out. The anti-air is there. 602 now. The side of Rascals goes ahead, punishes the bolus there for 628, and I don't even know if he got that bolus off. We'll have to see, but 492 is going to flip it back, and that's the thing, is even though Rascals has an upper hand here, and he's got to be careful if he continues his pressure forward, and there's going to be the straight source coming out for the jump attack. It's going to get countered out from Gawush, and we see the move out coming out. The rolls there from Gawush as he gets the poke. 197 to 319. Very, very close here as these players are right on the edge of their seats here, trying to figure this one out. The balls to their feet, running through the neutral here, trying to find a way to aggress this. This is going to be the set of Rascals, and Gawush is just playing back. He's hanging out. He doesn't want to aggress into this. He knows if he gets point blank range, if he misses the trade, he will lose the match off of that. As there's a move out from neutral, able to roll it out without a problem. The jumping R, one of the last, flip it out back around. The move out comes out again. The rolling attack there. The 196 from the S-Stock poke is actually there from the side of Rascals. Gawush decides not to take the damage, and it could lose him the fight for that decision as he goes now. He's going to be the roll attack again. He doesn't. He just takes the S-Stock again for 115 damage, and that's 2 times that Rascals has allowed him to roll into it. And there's the punish. 150. The jump attack's going to land for 345, and that's going to be Gawush pulling it back to a 1-1.
And that's a 1-1, the equalizer so far. This may very well go to match point with the way that it is going this moment, LBU, as we're seeing, true, Garwash did walk into that S-Stock, rolled into it, sorry, not once, but twice. But the third time he had something set up for it, even though he was very, very low on that. A very risky maneuver there on the side of Garwash, but managed to go for it. It did pay off in the wind up, that extra little bit of damage, but Rascals so close to bringing it back there with that third attempt, but just shook his nerves, and that's sometimes all it takes, a shaking of the nerves, and manages to get through and actually take it through in this. The best of 5, a 1-1 for both of our contestants. Rascals on the Moonveil, the Gorshwabs on the dual Great Lance, which again, I'm pretty hyped to see how this next one is going to go. I'll be very, very hyped.
I'm curious why Rascals isn't pulling out the shield, as the shield is a pretty realistic answer to the Great Spears, to my knowledge. Uggs has a lot more playability into the Great Shield than Great Spears does, especially now that status is no longer allowed, specifically cold, on those Great Spears. It's going to be tricky for Gawush to get around the Great Shield, but obviously Rascals decided he doesn't want to use it, doesn't need to use it. Maybe he knows something I don't, which is entirely possible and realistic. The matchup is not as clean as I think it is, so we'll have to see if he's going to stick on the Clean Rot Moonveil as he comes in here, but Gawush is going to be tried and true on those lances. You're going to be looking at pure physical lances, more than likely a heavy infusion with the utilization of that phalanx. Phalanx synergizes with those weapons so incredibly well. You're already trying to roll an extremely difficult attack to roll. Now add in something else that's going to be, breaking poise and can get comboed into, etc., etc. You can do the math. It's not very much fun. Rascals 1, Gawush 1, Enda.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, on a 3, on a 2, on a 1, Ale.
Here is our bolt in and underway. Our round 3, it is a 1-1 even set here. We do see the buffs coming out from each side here. Actually going for the phalanx this time. It's going to be the side, the Goodstone Scraps, rather, Rascals. We see the poke coming out there from the side of Gawush, trying to find this. There's that phalanx. He's trying to get this pressure. He rolls into it, hoping that we see a punish. The jumping R1, good utilization of that. The running attack from Rascals to try to pressure him back. It does exactly that. Gets him back in the middle of this map. He's no longer going to be in that corner. He has a way to go now. As you do see this footsie little battle coming out in neutral here. The good jump R1, skipping that from the side of Gawush, but resets it immediately. It's going to be the side of Rascals. Now he's going to try to find that pressure. 114 damage against the jump attack, able to get away from it without a problem. Good jump attack from Gawush, but Rascals was just a little bit too quick with that reaction there. Finds the poke there again. 47 damage though from the phalanx is going to land. Able to roll that S-Stock from the side of Gawush. That might be more impressive than rolling Nugs. I got to be honest. Is he able to roll that off-stock without a problem? You do see another phalanx coming in here. That was the pressure from the side of Rascals. Rolls it, goes to the punish. Rascals a little bit too wise to that now. He did eat some damage last time in that same way. He gets away this time. Resets to a bit of a neutral, but the pressure is immediately there from Rascals. And there's that trade that we talked about. He's able to find it that time, changes it into 246, goes to the anti-air, but is able to strafe around it. The roll comes out now from the side of Gawush, and this is looking pretty good for him. Rascal's able to find a little bit of damage in the encounter, though, so we're relatively even in terms of overall health. Right, you'll see, and now Gawush is just trying to find a way in. Every time Rascals gives him the chance, he's going to get that Phalanx up. That is tricky for Rascals. He's got to be careful with that. He can't just allow him to get that. It's going to cause a lot of issues for him here. You see that covers him, allows him to get his flask off, and now he's reset. He can continue doing it. The poke comes out from the side of Rascals. The roll, great reaction comes out, but now he's going for the wave dash. He's able to let it. He decides not to L1. He finally does. 492 damage. The jump chain is not going to be there. Rascals looking to punish it. The roll comes out, and he doesn't find the trade. There it is again from Gawush. These great spears just so hard to get around with, with these weapons. It's just, if you don't have a way to block them and you can't get away from them in the roll, but great trade comes out from the side of Gawush there. That's going to be a 2-1 lead for him.
Incredible. And again, those jumping attacks do so much damage. We've seen it there, tries to go for the Moonveil. I'm not sure if there was a trade in that last one, LB, but my God, was it was close. Even if it was a trade, that was going to go one way though. Like, those great spears, they can hit for 900 plus damage if they are managing to land that jump L1. They just hit so hard, and the fact that they do have the ability to crouch L1 afterwards to try and get the roll catch as well can add to even more pain, because it compounds. You make one mistake, it's like, oh no, that was bad. Now you're going to have to face off against even more mistakes further down the line. One bad roll after that, and you're in a vortex yet again. And again, people forget it. It's comparable to Uggs, the crouch L1, just that it's a little bit more difficult to get out, and it hits so hard. And I'd be curious to see if Rascals is going to change anything. Being on one stock to 2 is going to be huge here, because again, Gorshwab just needs to win one more. He needs to get a couple of those jump L1s. He's going to do an awful lot of damage. Even without them, just a regular crouch L1 is going to do so much, but that remains to be seen as we have both of our contestants here in and ready to go. LBU, give us the count in.
And a 3, a 2, and a 1. Ale, ladies and gentlemen, our 4th round is underway. The bolt is in. We will see the respective buffs coming out again. I'm curious if Rascals is going to punish that flash. There it is. There's the punish. 299 damage, and he does get the shield out. So after dropping 2 rounds, he says, you know what? Forget the ass stock. Forget the Moonveil weapon art. I'm just going to use a shield and play this nice and careful and passive. There's the block against that jump attack. Is able to get right into his face and keep the pressure. There's the Phalanx. I don't know how much Phalanx is going to do against this shield. It doesn't matter. The swap comes through, goes for the Moonveil, immediately swaps back over. The running attack not there for the side of Gawush. There's going to be those backswings, 401 damage. He's able to get 2 of them to land as he goes for the backswing, and then the third R1 there as well. And now Gawush is rolling, goes for the jump attack, blocks it out without a problem, is the way of Rascals. And you can kind of see what I mean there, and that this great shield is just so hard to get around without any status. With UGS, you do have the ability to take trades and things like that with Hyper Armor. You don't have that ability with the Great Spears. It causes this setup to be much more difficult to play into, and we're going to see, again, he goes for the poke, tries to jump attack at 197 is the damage that he takes instead.
Yeah, the great shield here is nice. The Moonveil comes out and is going to punish that there. He, funnily enough, he's not using those L1s anymore. He's actually using R1s, and they're coming in clutch here in this matchup as well. Just managing to get this. The backswing comes out. Oh my God, Gorshwab is so very low here. And here comes out in the Moonveil yet again. Are we going to see a swap over? No, he goes for the block, tries to punish away. Backhands Gorshwab's away as the side of Rascals, and that's going to be the R1
comes
to
out
end it.
And then again, we talked about that a little bit in the beginning, that Rascals' win condition against these Lances is going to be that shield, and he does a great job of showing why. He's not too much you can do against that shield, and he tries to do the jump attack. It just doesn't matter. The anti-air is there from the katana. You're rocking 49 sub 49 poison. What that means is that Moonveil will poise break every single time it lands. It has one of the better backswings in the game, and also chains into a third R1. So it's just so hard to get away from. That's why, Great Shield Nagakiba is such a popular answer to things like Great Spears and the UGS, because of that 49 poise breakpoint that they have. And, if you don't have the Hyper Armor on PSGS, that's why a lot of folks, pardon me, a lot of folks will say that UGS is a little bit
takes
a little bit less skill to use than the PSGS, and you can see why, right? When we look at those setups that are going to counteract you, that you have to play around, you don't have that hyper armor, and it's so incredibly noticeable. You don't have that hyper armor, so Gawush needs to figure a way around this shield.
Yeah, and figuring out a way around like having to deal with those like stray R1s that will immediately poise break as well is a huge thing, and it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a very, very interesting one in this next set. Will we see Gorshwab's move off of the Twin Great Spear? That is something I'm going to be curious about, because I do find katanas are a really good option against it. Catan board, especially with you have a Great Shield, is very, very strong against these kinds of very low poise setups. It's bad again. It's good against the Colossal Sword. It's incredibly good against the Great Spear. And it's a wonder it took Rascals this long to take it out, because it was very dominating in that last set. Very, very dominating, but remain to be seen how it's going to pan out, LB, because it's 2-2. This is going to be the last one. You know, this is the first one. The winner is getting into a money match here, ladies and gentlemen. You know, that's going to be very, very important. Oh, it's all money matches from here on out. Whoever takes a win is going to be in for it. And even if we go back up into the semi-finals in the main bracket here with the Slave Knight Cost versus Snapcaster, that's going to be another case of the winner. Both of them are going to win, but it's going to be who's in the run-in for second place, guaranteed. The guaranteed second place of the winner of that setup, and you know, it's going to be pretty interesting as to how it's going to pan out.
Absolutely. I mean, if you take a look, we're looking at, you know, it's Slave Knight Cost, it's going to be Snapcaster. That is going to be really interesting. They're going to fight one of these two players for the chance to go back up and fight again, right? And one of these two players have been in a loser's bracket. They're tired of being in a loser's bracket. They're ready to win this match, win the next, and get back into the main event. And the next match in the main event for either one of these players would be a finals. And remember, if they do get back, let's say, you know, one of these two players is able to get themselves back into the main event, that means that they're going to have to win twice up there. And that's a lot of pressure that you can put on a player. So we'll have to see how it's going to play out in total here. We do have Rascals in, just simply waiting for Gouache to find their way in here. As you called it, Enda, this is now a match point. And you mentioned it from the word go that you suspected we'd see a match point here, and you were correct. I got to ask, what gave it away?
What gave it away here is both of these players have, you know, in their main bracket performance had played quite well. They seem to be about on par with each other. Now, if Rascals had gone on the shield earlier, I probably would have had to eat my words here, because that was a very commanding showing in that first set. And it's going to be, I don't really know. There's something about how both of them play here that kind of, I just had the, do you ever get a vibe, my friend, about how something is going to pan out? That's just how it was, because both of them had performed well. Both of them performed well in the main bracket and had gone on to perform quite well in losers. And something just gave it away. You know, both of them at 2-1 on that losers round 4 LB was quite an interesting performance, I would say. But we are enough about the past. We are looking at the present as we are waiting for a punk get in. When you're on that side, when you're on that dual spear and you're up against someone who has hard countered you, what are you gonna go for, LB? Are you gonna be forced to change off, or are you gonna, if you were to persevere on it, what are you looking for? How are you gonna get it? How are you gonna get through?
There's a few different options that you can try to play. So basically, it's kind of the similar thing as what I mentioned with the Uggs win. Is you need to play, you need to just not aggress into them, and you need to force them to come to you, and you need to bait out those attacks. It kind of plays, if you think about how neutral in DS3 works out, right? It's, you know, you want to bait their attack so you can punish. The thing is that Rascals has the ability to just hold that shield up and simply walk towards Gawush, which it means that Gawush needs to play a really strong neutral, and he needs to be able to keep Rascals back without attacking into that shield. So the number of things that he can try for that. He can use pots. He can just, you know, play the position of the map really well and circle around and cause, you know, Rascals to take those whiffs that he's going to, you know, just stay just out of range to get those very quick punishes. And that's probably the way that you have to look at countering this if you are Gawush. But it's going to be a tough one to say the least. Rascals definitely is very smart, good well-rounded player, understands how neutral works. He knows where those attacks are going to be. He is, he did play Dark Souls 3, which is a much stronger neutral-centric game, so he understands how those neutrals work out, and he's proven to be quite good at them, and even with his Moonveil and everything like that. So it's going to be tricky regardless for Gawush. If Rascals keeps the shield out, it's going to be a tough one for him, and I would actually just flat out give Rascals the advantage.
It seems that way. But out of these two players, based off of who's left as well, this is always something based off of their performance. Going up against either Slave Knight or Snapcaster, who do you think of these two? Because again, sometimes matchups can be very interesting in who they'll pan out. Like, who has a good chance of taking either of those out? Rascals was, of course, 2-0'd in the main bracket in round 3. By Slave Knight, costing a very commanding lead. And, Gorshwab's, of course, going up against Snapcaster, the same thing. Have they displayed that they've learned anything through these losers bracket matches that we've seen so far that would lead you to believe that they're able to come back into that main bracket and have a really good shot? That's going to be the real question here.
Yeah, it's really only time can tell. I'm really curious as between Slave Knight, Cost, or Snapcaster, who's going to end up in that round 6, because they're both so clean fundamentally.
Yeah.
Slave Knight is a player that was usually in the top 16 area, and he's just come back and completely, ran the leaderboard and has been rank 1 for a little while now. So I'm really curious how that's going to play out. Looks like we're going to see a UGS coming out side of Gawush. So we are going to see both of these players in now. 2-2 is our rounds for match point. Enda, if you can give me the count in.
Ladies and gentlemen, on a 3, on a 2, on a 1. Ale.
And here comes the bolt in. We are going to see the magic fortification. Trades it out for the buff. It's going to be the side of Rascals. Doesn't go for the Moonveil this time. Actually just goes ahead for the scraps. So we are going to see he's now trying to get away. I'm curious if we have Waves of Darkness. Actually goes for Rot Grease. So he is going to play status into this shield. And that's kind of one of the better options you have against shield, is to just keep that pressure up with status. Scarlet Rot is such a strong status. Goes for the crouch cancel, but just unable to land it that time around. It's going to be the side of Gawush. So Gawush now trying to kind of pressure forward. And what Gawush needs to do is, if he's going to play the status idea, he needs to, good backswing there, but he's going to sacrifice some health for it. So he needs to play poke, get in, poke, get out. And that's kind of the way you have to play this status. And he's playing a little over aggressive for it, tries to linger about, and perhaps he'll pick that up near the end here. As you see, Rascals is already forced to take that shield out and get away from it, swaps the shield off, goes the Moonveil out, puts the shield back on. He is going to go straight S-Stock here now against this UGS. He's going to go for the Boil Damage there, 489, able to roll the Vortex though without a problem. There's the shield immediately. Pulls the shield out, gets hit, says, yeah, no, I'm putting it back on. That is going to be a good chunk of Scarlet Rot built up there as well. He's going to be looking for a Bolus here. You see him kind of taking this position for spacing here, and there's that pressure. Oh, the roll! 489 catches into 507. That is going to be Scarlet Rot prodded now, and procced rather, as now Gawush does not want him to utilize that. He's just simply backing up, takes the trade. Great pressure there. We talk about that spacing and that neutral to find it. There's the Moonveil coming out. Rascals trying to pull it together. Now the jump comes out from the side of Gawush, trying to find it. Rascals there again with the Asher War, able to land that as Gawush is simply walking back now. There's going to be the Asher War again. There's the roll catch, and there it's going to be Gawush is going to take this one out in a 3-2 victory.
And of course, a Gawush in this has now a guaranteed at least 3rd place, at the very least, as he will be fighting the winner of either Slave Knight, Cost, or Snapcaster in this nice set. Oh my lord. Weirdly enough, the Ultra, you were right, LB. It's a much cleaner matchup, and having that Rot on top of status pressure all the way through is an incredibly powerful thing to have as well. And really, really solid play on both of their parts. Rascals tried to find his way in there, got a little bit overly enthusiastic, tried to stay in, get some damage in, wasn't. Good idea, execution a little bit off, and we'll definitely have to see how Gorshwab is going to do moving forward in the rest of this tournament.
That is true. So we are going to see now, moving back into our main bracket, ladies and gentlemen, our semifinals are going to be underway. We will see Slave Knight, Koss, and Snapcaster working their way in. All right, we will have both of our contestants in. We have Slave Knight on the left. We have Snapcaster on the right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a best of 5. Our semifinals are round 1 in 3, 2, 1, alley. And there is our bolt. It is underway. Immediate Beast Roar comes out from the side of Snap to punish Slavecast. He actually does manage to get it, and he is going to get the Black Flame protection off, but that's going to chain into another 317 damage. So AR for AR, Slave Knight cost has a huge advantage here. There's going to be the poke coming in, 293, 446. It's 2 hits to break poise there, but he is going to take the trade. But you see that huge health advantage still in favor of Slave Knight. Now, of course, he's going up against the Tree Spears. Great poise break, 270 damage. Slave Knight doesn't know how to get around. The Endure comes out, goes for the back poke, unable to land it, but there's the trade coming through, 468 damage from the side of Slave Knight here, trying to get the roll catch. There it is, and we talked about that health advantage not being as important on these weapons, and we see it right there as Slave Knight immediately pulls it back around and takes a 1-0 victory. Absolutely phenomenal play comes out there. And one of the things we can look at in that match as we take a peek, Snapcaster immediately gets a very early head start on that, gets a lot of damage outright, but the sheer AR and the sheer DPS that's going to come from those Tree Spears is just a little bit too much for Snapcaster to handle. So it's interesting to see that he has that quick early advantage and just immediately flips it right back around as the side of Slave Knight. And one thing Snapcaster can't really afford to do in setup per setup here is take trades. He needs to play the poise game. He needs to attack when he breaks poise, because that's the one thing that these weapons do not have from the side of Slave Knight is going to be hyper armor. That's going to allow this this regular thrusting sword to break the poise and win the trade without actually taking the trade because of the sheer speed of it. So that's something Slave Knight needs to do a little bit better job of. Snapcaster he played very, very well, but just that sheer vortex potential from Slave Knight was just a little bit too much. So we're going to have to see exactly how Snapcaster is going to pull this one back around, if at all. We're going to be a 1-0 lead in favor of Slave Knight as we go into this. And the Black Flame protection as well is something that Snapcaster is going to have to be really careful about allowing Slave Knight to get off, because had he not had that Black Flame, it's entirely possible that damage Slave Knight done would have been significantly more, and it would have allowed him in a situation where he wouldn't have been alive to take those trades. But ladies and gentlemen, we have both of our contestants back in the world. That's going to be Slave Knight Koss on the left with a 1-0 lead over Snapcaster on the right, and 3, 2, 1, alley. And here comes our bolt. An immediate Black Flame is actually going to come out. Sorry, the flask is going to come out, and you see him going for that Black Flame now, but he's going to get punished. Poise broke, doesn't get it off, and like we talked about, the win condition for Snapcaster is not allowing him to get that, but you're going to see the pressure now coming in from the side of Slave Knight. The poke comes out. Great spacing, though, comes out from Snapcaster. Just simply outplayed there. The Beast Roar coming out from the side of Snapcaster there, or Slave Knight rather, had great spacing, but you do see a bit of a reset to a neutral here, and it looks like he is going to get a bolus off, and that's a lot of damage for Snapcaster just completely negated here as he goes to running R2 out. Great job. Gets another poke in. That's going to be poise damage. Able to roll that one out, and there's going to be the poke. Unable to land that one, though, as we do see a lot of Bestial, a lot of Rot is building up. Doesn't actually decide to take the Beast Roar there. The jump comes out from neutral. Great read from the side of Snapcast. Another poke comes through, and he's going to be in poise break potential there. And there it is again. And there's the Rot. 523 damage. You do see him coming through as the jump attack. Oh, he's able to space it, though. This is a lot closer. Snapcaster playing this one a lot safer. He's playing the poise break, but a huge trade comes through in favor. And there's going to be, again, trying to get away. The Endure comes out. He's going to force it. Forces him back, actually, with that Endure. Able to space out that one. There's the running R2 coming in. Able to get away from it is the side of Slave Knight. Throws out that crouch out one again there. We do see, again, it's 1-0 in favor of Slave here. Snap has to be careful here. The jump attack's going to come through. He's going to go for that jump. And there's the trade, and that's going to be in favor of Slave Knight Koss. And oh no, Slave Knight is going to take a 2-0 lead over Snapcaster in this set. And my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, what a fight so far. Again, Snapcaster played that so incredibly well in the beginning, but he just simply got a little too aggressive. He loses his composure about halfway through that fight, and that's going to allow a lot of these issues that we're seeing come into play. So, he takes 1 or 2 trades that he shouldn't against the Great Spears. You really can't afford to do that. And, Slave Knight Koss is going to get so much value out of that. So Snapcaster gets the Scarlet Rot prodded. He's not there in a way to actually punish it. That's huge. That's a big bit of damage. Even if he just would have had Beast Roar out, a hard swap over to Beast Roar would have given him 400 or 500 damage more to work with, would have made that Scarlet Rot a little more worth it. If you aren't going to be playing for the Scarlet Rot in the way that you're going to be punishing the boluses, then you need to switch up to something different here. I think Snapcaster, if he switches to maybe a slightly longer thrusting sword, maybe forgoes status and just goes for pure damage, he might have a pretty good advantage here. or he needs to swap to something that has the ability to punish those boluses. That's 2 or 3 times now. Slave Knight's not been punished for a bolus. He did get punished in the Black Flame protection, though, and Snapcaster, it's interesting to me, he doesn't utilize the same punish there. He decides to go for a jump instead of the running R2. Doesn't use the Beast Roar because he has the Endure on. So there's a lot of things here that Snapcaster could do to be a little bit more clean. And again, the beginning of that fight was incredibly clean. Just played it so well against those tree spears. But in the end, you know, he got a little bit more lackadaisical. Slave is using a weapon set that you cannot afford to be lackadaisical against. It's got an extremely fast attack. It does a stupid amount of damage. Incredible counter thrust there. But ladies and gentlemen, enough talking about it. Let's see if Snap's able to pull this back or if he's going to have to go fight Gawushu in 3, 2, 1. Ale. And there is our bolt in. Our match is underway. An immediate Frostpot coming out there from the side of Slave Knight. We are going to see the Black Flame coming out, traded out for the Flask, though. That does mean that Slave is not going to get a Flask. He does decide that the Flask is less important than Black Flame. I think I would actually agree with him there in this setup, that we do see the Clean Rod actually coming out. The good running R2 to punish. 307 comes in, goes for the counterattack. The running L1 actually lands! Oh no! The running L1's going to land for 734 damage. He's going to get punished out on the Flask, though, for 518 damage into 743. Now we're going to see the Vortex coming through the Endure to punish it out, though. 286 damage still comes through. Snapcaster trying to find some pressure. You see the Fan Dagger come through there. That looks like it did actually end up resetting the poise of Slave Knight, so that's going to be concerning for the size of Snapcaster here. He has to be careful. He doesn't have the health to take trades right now. Another Fan Dagger comes in. That means he is going to break poise if he takes the attack here. The Endure comes in. He's going to break poise there. Goes for the running attack. That's going to catch 538. Goes for the backswing there and able to land that. The counter action comes up from the side of Slave Knight here, really trying to keep that pressure forward. And you see Snapcaster gets in, gets his damage, and gets out. The running R2, though, and he's going to trade it out. Those 647. He's got to be careful. If he takes the jump attack here, he's going to die. He's got to be really, really smart and count his poise correctly here. Poise counting is the name of the game when you are on this setup, ladies and gentlemen. He is going to opt over to the Beast Roar now. He's going to get this Scarlet Rot building up as well. We do see the Raptors coming out now from Slave Knight. He wants to take a jump and win through tears. He has the ability to do that with these weapons. There's the jump right there. Tries to punish out the inventory right there, but then the running attack comes through there again. Another running attack chains in as well. You do see lightning damage now coming out from the side of Snapcaster here, really trying to keep this pressure on Slave Knight. Slave Knight has that row remains going. He's got that blue feather on. He's got that red feather. He's stacking his damage, stacking his defenses. He wants to win this out. You see the Raptor's chest come through there, but he's going to miss. He's trying to get his way back, though. Snapcaster throws the Endure out. He can take an attack with Endure here and win the match outright. He looks for the running attack, and that's going to land 186 as he finds the roll catch here. There it is. There's the roll catch for 84 damage. That's going to be Snapcaster pulling it back in a 2-1. So really well played from Snapcaster there to properly pull that one back. And really interesting to me is that we actually see an almost opposite from Snapcaster from the second round. So second round, he played the first half super, super clean and started to get lackadaisical near the end. This time it's the opposite. He's a little bit clunky in the beginning, but once he gets his footing in that match, Slave Knight is having a really hard time actually aggressing this weapon. And that's the whole thing with the two-handed thrusting sword, is your whole game plan is to punish with those running R2s, or sorry, not punish, aggress with those running R2s and punish with those neutral R1s or those crouch R1s. You see at the end there is no possible way for Slave Knight to realistically reaction. That crouch attack from the side of Snap is just so incredible. His ability to, that weapon's ability rather, to throw out those crouch attacks. For those wondering, it is a 9-frame attack on 30 FPS. Again, that is in the unreactable zone, right? Nobody realistically is going to be able to unreact that, especially with the blending that the crouching or the wave dashing is going to allow them, or the ducky shuffle, as the PlayStation players do refer to it as. But it should be really interesting to see. Slave Knight now has his loss under his belt. He can pull this one back together. Snapcaster is on the back foot. He cannot afford to lose here. Ladies and gentlemen, in a 3, a 2, and a 1, Ale. And there is the bolt in. Our match is underway. Immediately takes a flask, trades the flask out. This time is the side of Slave Knight, so he's not going to get that Black Flame protection, but it doesn't matter as we do see lightning. And now Slave Knight's going to go ahead and keep that pressure up against Snap here. Immediately gets an early lead. 860 is the damage there off of that second one, but he's going to find the Endure trade there, and that's a huge health advantage for the side of Slave Knight. And Snapcaster needs to put his footing together and get this one back. The Endure comes out for the trade. There's going to be a tier pop. He can't afford too many of these, and you see it there again. Throws for the jump attack, though, but rolls it out is the side of Slave Knight. Great roll comes through there. As we do see the roll catch coming out there from the temp. The running R2 comes in and able to land that. We do see the wave dash is coming out. That's going to be it. 424 damage. Slave Knight Knight cost is going to pick this one up in a 3-1. And ladies and gentlemen, what that means that Snapcaster is going to go down into losers round 6, and he's going to fight against Gawushu, who has a lot of different weapons that's been used today. One quick final message on that fight that we just saw. So you see Slave Knight that time. Snapcaster simply just it got away from him, to tell you the truth. It was just he had a really good game plan going into it. He's coming off of the win, but he gets just 1 or 2 mistakes. He gets 2 or 3 counter hits against him, and that's enough to put you in danger mode against those weapons. And it's very difficult to play into those setups and have those issues. So again, we're going to see Snapcaster and Gawushu now for round 6. So Snapcaster is going to be, I'm sure, utilizing this 2-handed thrusting sword. He's done a really good job of using that throughout this tournament, ladies and gentlemen. Then Gawushu's used a few things. He's used the UGS. He's used the tree spear, the lances. He's used the straight swords. He's used a lot of different setups here. So I'm curious what his answer to the thrusting sword would be. I think if I was in the boots of Gawush, I would actually just go right ahead and utilize the UGS. He did fall 0-2 against Snapcaster in round 3, and that's how he ended up fighting against Nibri, and then Rascals in those losers round was actually being dropped by Snapcaster himself. So that's going to be really, really interesting to see exactly how that's going to play out between these two players. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking a look now. Losers round 6, Snapcaster versus Gawush. Gawush fresh off his win against Rascals, utilizing that Rot Colossal. Snapcaster on that Rot Thrusting Sword. And in 3, 2, 1, Knight, you may fire when ready. And there is the bolt in there, ladies and gentlemen. The Beast Roar comes out, tries to punish out the Flask. We are going to see Flask for Flask here. Actually is going to take the Boil Prompt. He's going to eat one of those Beast Roars. Has to be careful. Nearly got knocked off the edge there. The roar is going to come out, coming out for pure physical AR damage off of that Kroll's Golden Sword, as we do see now Gawush trying to find a way into it. The Beast Roar coming off from Snapcaster, really playing this neutral rather well. There's that running attack R2, but the trade's going to be there in favor. The roll comes out from Snapcaster, though. Great job getting away from that Vortex, playing really nice and clean. We do see this pressure going back and forth as they try to find it. The blue tier is going to come out there from the side of Snap. He's going to get that FP back, going to get those Beast Roars back up. The jump's going to come out. Does not decide to take the trade very wisely, actually, as Gawush is going to throw out that attack, and Snapcaster is there at the ready to roll it. So trying to find a way in there. Is going to be the poke coming through to punish it. The jump attack's there, though, for 497. But the jump counters comes out for 381. Goes for the back poke with that, unable to land that. We do see the wave dashing coming back and forth from each one of these contestants here. Pressure moving forward. There's going to be the scream. The jump attack comes in, jumps over the Beast Roar. Is going to be the side of Gawush. So very well played there as Snapcaster trying to find the pressure in the running R2. Unable to land that. Is going to land that one, though. Goes for the poke. 280 damage coming off of that S-Stock, or sorry, not S-Stock, that Anspur Rapier from the side of Snap. And there's going to be the Beast Roar, 372 damage. He's got to be careful here now. He's going to be the side of Gawush. He needs a clean Vortex to finish this one out, but there's going to be that running R2. Very hard to get away from. Chains it in again. The jump attack is there. Goes the poke from neutral, and able to land that is going to be the side of Gawush here. There's the poke, but there's going to be the trade. 596 to 550. It's going to be in favor of Gawush here, as I believe that is going to be a tier pop on both sides. Great utilization to get the bolas out there and able to find the pressure. Is going to be Snap to punish that. Great running R2. Goes for the R1 for the poke. There's the running attack to get it, and there's Scarlet Rock prodded. 181 damage comes through, and that's going to be Snapcaster and a clean 1-0 lead. And one of the things we can talk about in that matchup is sheer patience, as patience is really your win condition. If you're Snapcaster in this set, the win condition is to be able to find the patience to get around this Ultra Great Sword, the Colossal Sword rather, and find those punishes with that very quick reactive playstyle. And Snapcaster has shown, as you see, he rolled so many Clugs pokes there, which is commonly referred to as the community as an unreactable attack. He's reacting it. He's very clean with it. He's a very good, clean, reactive player. Gawush needs to play that a little bit stronger. He needs to make sure when he's taking these trades, he's winning them outright and puts him in a position to Vortex off of that. You just see a few of those rolls from Snapcaster were prediction rolls out of the hit stun, and Gawush needs to get a little bit better at predicting that and instead waiting to roll catch out of it. So it can be a really tricky when you're playing that, Uggs versus something else play style of they don't have the ability to block, but they have the ability to prediction you. And that's where it comes into is Gawush needs to play this a little bit cleaner. But Snapcaster, we've said it all day, folks. Snapcaster is just so clean with his fundamentals right now. His reactions are on point. His spacing is right there, and I don't know if the Colossal Sword from Gawush is going to be enough to take this one out. So we do see a 1-0 lead in favor of Snapcaster here up against Gawush. So again, it's going to be Snapcaster on the left. It's going to be Gawush on the right. And ladies and gentlemen, in a 3, 2, 1, Ale. And here comes our bolt in. We do see them going ahead, trading flask for flask. We do see that AR buff strictly coming out from the side of the wash here. He is going to go ahead and get that boiled prawn out. The sleep pot comes in as well from the side of Gawash. There's a frost pot there. And actually, oh no! He goes to block, and maybe not. Maybe he does purposely cast the magic fortification. Very interesting choice of ability right there. I'm not exactly sure what that was about, but regardless, perhaps it was just a misclick. It's going to give a Snapcaster the ability to get away, and there's that Endure, and the Endure on this is going to give him the ability to take these trades and get some damage out of it. So really clean play is coming out against the Snapcaster, but the Whoosh is right there. Oh, good running attack to break that, boys. 220 off of that crouch poke there. Very clean. There's their crouch poke going for the wave dash, but the trade's there. Going to be in favor. The jump comes out. It's going to get anti-aired for 450. There's another poke comes out from the side of Gawish there. Snapcaster able to get away from that one. Now is reset to a bit of a neutral. The footsie's back and forth. The Endure coming out, resetting everything from the side of Snapcaster here, throwing out that fan dagger. Again, those fan daggers are so crucial here because that's going to give him the ability to break poise. Also going to give him some good chip damage there. So 5 more damage lands through that Endure on the side of a Snapcaster there as Gawish goes to jump off neutral. Running R2 is going to land 318 damage on this landing. Goes to the counter poke, unable to land it, but there's a poke going to be in favor of Gawish. Goes to the roll catch, but instead gets punished out by a roll attack from the side of Snapcaster. Oh no, he's got to be careful now. You see him, he's waiting for it there, and there it is. That's going to be Gawish pulling this back to a 1-1. And what we talked about, ladies and gentlemen, was Gawish needs to play the reads a little bit better against Snap here and truly just play reactive. And we see that in the end there. He gets the poke. Snapcaster has maybe 34, 50 health left. And instead of going for that crouch cancel poke, which is very common amongst UGS players, Gawish says, you know what? No, I'm going to just, he's going to roll, right? He's got 34 health. Of course he's going to roll. He's not going to sit there and try to reaction the attack that's going to lose in the round. So he rolls and he's there to catch that roll. So really good read comes out from Gawish to catch that vortex, mix himself up and get the victory over Snap there. So we are going to see a 1-1 reset here from these players. Again, this is a best of 5. That means the first 2, 3, and each of them are 33% of the way there as they're working their way through this. So again, Snapcaster plays that one about the same as before, but Gawish is the difference there, right? Gawish decides, you know what, I'm going to play this a little bit cleaner this time around. I'm going to go ahead. I'm only going to take the trades that I know I can win. I'm only going to vortex when I know he's not going to roll, and he did a great job of that. So it should be really interesting to see how these players are going to come back to each other in this one. Again, Snapcaster has guaranteed poise break on that running R2. He throws a fan dagger. He has guaranteed poise break on that R1. But it's only a matter of time to see, how well Snapcaster's reactions are going to hold up for him for the rest of the day. Again, Snapcaster on the left to Gawish on the right. This is a 1-1 round 3. And in 3, 2, 1, Ale. There is going to be the bolt in as we do see actually going for the boiled prawn immediately is the side of Snapcaster, throws out the punish and does manage to get himself a flask as well. And he's going to take everything traded, has a huge health advantage now up against Gawish. So Gawish is starting on the back foot. It's not a place that he wants to be right now. Snapcaster has got the last fight very close in terms of overall health, and he goes for some type of swap there. I think perhaps a misclick. We've seen a few misclicks from Gawish. Perhaps turning nerves just getting to him here. Good jump attack though. 416 takes the trade for the vortex, goes for the double poke, misses the read there, but now he's in the way, goes for the punish there. The beast roar comes out to try to break that poise. Good idea from Snapcaster, but we do see Gawish actually just gets away. That he's going to allow him to get a bullets off though, and that's going to negate all that Scarlet Rock that Snapcaster's been building up, but he's going to reset it to a neutral here. The jump comes in, good feint comes out. You see the roll does come out from the side of Snapcaster there. Gawish can use that now to set up for another set of attacks here. The neutral is just kind of a footsie game back and forth here, ladies and gentlemen, as they're trying to find a way in. Oh, good feint comes out from the side of Gawish, and you see there's the roll catch right there. He does go for the double poke. Good read there, and he's going to wait for the roll catch, and oh, misses the roll catch, but a good idea there. The poke comes out now from the side of Snapcaster, going for that beast right there. Gawish really playing this Uggs to its fullest, doing a really good job keeping things underway, but there's another beast roar coming. That's going to be a tier pop there, so he's in no second range health here. The wet health that he has left is the health he's left to work with, so he's going to be moving this forward, trying to keep the pressure. Good running R2 comes out from Snapcaster. Great roll comes out from Gawish, realizes he can't trade that. Great trade from Snapcaster, finds the poke and gets away. Great spacing comes out. There's going to be the chain into it, goes for the back poke, unable to land that. Gawish just rolls it just a little bit too clean. He takes the bolus again, so really playing this bolus game so well. There's the poke going to come out, unable to land that. We're going to see the rebuff on the Scarlet Rot. The beast roar comes out from the side of Snapcaster there. The trade comes in a little bit late from the side of Gawish there. Goes for the jump attack, unable to land that. You see the poke attack coming 197, 436. The Scarlet Rot's there, and Snapcaster's going to pull it back in a 2-1. And that's the thing when we talk about these matches is, we talk about the vortex potential that Gawish has on that Colossal Sword, but the Vortex is real from Snapcaster here. I mean, the ability to chain these crouch attacks together, get those little double pokes up against this UGS is so incredibly crucial, and it shows just how good it is, especially at the end there. And if you're in the boots of Gawush, you take, you try to get in, you get hit with a poke, and Snapcaster gets away, and you got to take your trade a little bit calmer now, and you go in and take the trade, and it doesn't quite work out your way, and now you're low health, and he's in your face, Scarlet Rot procs, and you're pretty much just dead there. So regardless of how fast that crouch attack is, once Scarlet Rot procs and you got about 100 health left, it's not going to work out in your favor. So Snapcaster played that phenomenally well. It is going to be 2-1 in favor here. And one thing I like that Snapcaster did throughout the whole set of that fight was he went ahead and found a way to poke Gawush and get away from the counterattack that Gawush is going to pack with that Troll's Golden. So did a really, really good job of that throughout that whole talk there. So we'll see how well it's going to put together for Snapcaster. This is going to be 2-1, ladies and gentlemen, in favor of Snapcaster against Gawush here. And in a 3, a 2, and a 1, Ale. So round 4 is now underway. The Beast Roar coming out from the side of Snapcaster. Gawush is going to go ahead and trade that out and go ahead and trade the Boil Prod for the Flask, and it trades out immediately again, but the Beast Roar is there, 221 damage to punish that. So Snapcaster has just been all over the mind games in the beginning of this match. Like, it's not been possible for Gawush to get both of his buffs out without eating at least one, but usually 2 or 3 Beast Roars. The prediction roll actually not good enough. I'm going to get punished out on that, but good trade comes through. But you see that Scarlet Rot is already on him. That's going to put him in a bad situation here. He's looking to get away and get a bolus here as the running R2 comes through, unable to counter that out, but the good poke comes through there, tries to keep that running R1, and that's the downside of utilizing this great utilization of that poke to find the damage and get the poise break there. The jump attack's going to come through. There's another good roll, and now you got to remember, he is up in terms of overall poise here, as you do see him now trying to get that up. Oh, goes for a feint there and tries to get the counter poke in, and there's going to be 378 damage. There's the poke, though, from the side of Gawush, 408. Good read on that to keep that Vortex slow. Oh, misses the roll catch, though. Usually running R2 comes out, but trades that out. There's a tier pop there. 2-2-11, though. Against that is 206, and that's going to be dueling out as the side of the Scarlet Rot, but the trade's going to be there in favor. Snapcaster can't get away, but oh no, the running attack from Gawush. Gawush misses the kill window to actually take down Snap there. Snap's going to be on Blue Feather now, Red Feather as well. The Bestial Sling coming out from the side of Gawush. He wants to finish this one out. He does not want to go home, wants to make this a 2-2. The running attack coming out. The poke is actually not there from the side of Gawush. He's going to get away, perhaps look for a Bellows or something, but here's going to be the reset here. The poke comes through. Again, you see that poke into the punish there. 230 damage, goes to the running R2 and able to land that. It's going to be the side of Snapcaster here, really trying to find the pressure. The poke comes through again. You talk about that frame at 9 tack, is able to get that poke in and get out before the punish is there. There's the Scarlet Rot, but oh no! The trade comes through, and that's going to be Gawush taking a 2-2 lead over Snapcaster, able to survive for just a second as Snapcaster falls. What a clean fight. I mean, really talk about going down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen, as we do see Gawush able to pull that one back. He gets the Scarlet Rot procced, but finds the roll catch and kills Snapcaster through the fact that he is rotting. So great play comes through from there, able to find the equalizer and pull it back. And again, Snapcaster played exceptionally well throughout that set. He did a good job of finding those pokes and getting that little bit of damage in to keep the pressure on them and find that kill window. So that's one of the things when you're dealing with status is, you get a lot of damage over time and it can be a finisher, but it's never as fast as an actual hit to finish somebody off, as Gawush was able to show that there. He did a really good job of keeping his composure after that Scarlet Rot procs, because, I mean, we mentioned this before, ladies and gentlemen, in the first set, actually, that as soon as you get that Scarlet Rot on you and you're that low of health, you're basically looking at a round loss. And Gawush did a really, really good job of just pulling that back around. Again, Gawush had really good reads on Snapcaster there as to when to go for the Vortex and when to go for the roll catch, and did a really, really good job reading the opponent there. And it's so hard from the feet of Snapcaster to get away from that Colossal. He needs to play Poise Break, and he's been doing a really good job of that so far, but, you miss 2 or 3 trades, and that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We do see Snapcaster 2, even Gawush 2. Round 5, our match point in 3, 2, 1, Ale. There is the bolt in. Our match is underway. We do see the Bestial Roar coming out there, trying to find the pressure. Gawush is going to go ahead. Actually manages to get his buffs this time without getting punished. Does he get the boil? Oh, he does get the prod out and doesn't get punished. This is the first round so far that he's had decent health going into it, but good pressure comes out from Snapcaster there. Finds the running R2. The jump R1's going to come in for 255. There's a lot of Scarlet Rot build. He needs to be careful. Good counter oppression comes out from the side of Gawush here. He's going to be looking for a bolus very soon, or just time. He's able to find the poke there, 483. And oh, but the counter comes out. out. Very good read from the side of Snap, but he just did not have the poise damage that he needed, but that's going to punish that bolus, and that's going to give him a good health advantage here, but the trade's going to level it out. 483 great rolls, again, coming out from Snapcaster here, as we do see that Bestial is just gonna, that Beast Roar is just gonna come out and keep that pressure on Snapcaster. Good jump to keep that pressure forward. There's that crouch attack. It does not manage to land any of it. Goes for it again. Unfortunately, the roll is gonna be there from the side of Gawush here. Gawush is doing everything he can to pull this one back. The Beast Roar comes up from neutral here, just trying to mix some things up. It's gonna be the side of Snapcaster, trying to keep Gawush back, forcing him to find these rolls. This one thing is when you are wave dashing on that Colossal Uggs weapon, it can be hard to find that roll button very quickly, and Snapcaster is playing a great weapon to exploit that, and there it is, 469 damage off that Beast Roar. Throws it out again. I believe we will see a tier pop there as well. Poke comes through, unable to land the damage, but that is going to be Scarlet buildup. Great roll comes out from the side of Snap as Gawush is just not able to find it. Oh no, another Beast Roar. He's got to be careful. He's so incredibly low, but he is in red feather range here, ladies and gentlemen. That means that one trade he probably will win it outright. Goes for the jump attack, but there's the poke coming through there. Tries to find the pressure. 105 is going to be the damage off Snapcaster, and that's going to be a 3-2 victory, and we will see again Snapcaster is going to make his way back up, and that's going to be third place for Gawush. So congratulations to Gawush. Played an absolute binder throughout this whole set, ladies and gentlemen, and that'll be a 3-2 victory for Snap, putting him back up against Slave Knight Cost in our finals. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are into our finals here. We have Slave Knight Cost, who has not lost a match this whole tournament, up against Snapcaster, who just battled it out against Gawush, and just by the skin of his teeth, found his way back in these finals. Slave Knight on the right, Snap on the left, and in a 3-2-1 Ale. So there's our bull. We'll see how these players are going to play it out. Immediately trading out the Black Flame for the Beast Roar, actually able to get it entirely off his Slave Knight. That's going to give him a huge advantage in this match so far. He's going to get away. The jump attack's going to land, 695 damage. The couch is going to be there to counter out, though, and this is not looking good for the side of Snapcaster, but he might be able to pull this one back just yet. Good spacing comes around from that, able to get away from the regular L1 from the side of those tree spears. Is going to be the side of Snap here. He's going to try to find the Beast Roar to break the poise. Great utilization of that up close. 279 damage comes in. He's going to throw that Beast Roar out again and again one more time, and you do see he no longer is utilizing that Scarlet Rye. He's going to be using a lightning thrusting sword as the pressure is going to be there. He is in poise break range, so he does need to be careful. There it is. You see it again, and now he's in poise break range again, and Slave Knight just doesn't do anything, and you see Snapcaster able to pull this one back. The Beast Roar is going to counter out. Actually is able to find anti-air in that. The jump comes through, but you're going to see red feathers come out now. 506 goes for the blender there, unable to land that. The Beast Roar comes out, trying to keep the pressure there. Is going to be decided. Now we're going to see a thrusting sword mirror for the last little bit of damage here. Can Slave Knight do the same thing that Snapcaster's been doing this whole tournament, ladies and gentlemen? Now it's time to find out. The rain attack comes in, but there's going to be a crouch attack, finds it. There's 86 damage. One more attack will break the poise here. Good spacing comes out from the side of Slave Knight, able to get away from Snapcaster here. Snapcaster trying to find the pressure. The R2 comes out. There's going to be the poke. Finds it. 1,414 damage in total. Now he's trying to find this counter here. You see the fan daggers coming out. 24 damage, 12, 30, 40, 48. The shield's forced out from the side of Slave Knight. Is he able to get away? The blue comes out now. Oh no, that means the Beast Roars are back. That's 8 more damage. The Beast Roar comes there again from the side of Snapcaster, really trying to keep this pressure. And now we're going to see a bit of a reset to neutral here. We do see the shield coming out now. Now Slave needs to be careful here. He doesn't want to do a shield poke here. He is not using a small shield. He's using a medium. He's got to be careful not to accidentally do those inputs, as we do see Snapcaster isn't even giving him the opportunity. Now we're going to see this pressure coming in. The running R2, the poke comes through, but there's a punish, 121 damage through that blue feather, and there's the roll catch, 33 damage. That's Snapcaster taking the first round at a 1-0. Really, really good clean play comes through there from Snapcaster throughout that. So you see Slave Knight gets a lot of damage off early, and Snapcaster, something clicks for him, something snaps, right? He's able to immediately pull it right back. He finds those crouch attacks, he finds those counters, and did a really good job of counting poise. I mean, you see he gets the poise break, throws an R1 in to keep that poise health low, and gets out immediately, right? And now Slave Knight can't really aggress him because he has the slower weapon. He doesn't have the ability to trade with hyper armor. Snapcaster is able to win it off of that alone, and he did a really good job. There was one unfortunate situation for Koss where he did kind of walk into the attack through and just, I don't know if he was waiting for a roll or what, but it just didn't quite work out for him there, and Snapcaster was able to capitalize on that and pulled it back into a thrust sword mirror, which again, Snapcaster Snapcaster obviously has a little bit more time on the setup. He did a really good job utilizing those fan daggers, even though you have the Twin Bird Shield, that Blue Feather Talisman in that region. It's just not enough. Those fan daggers, especially on a dexterity build, will chew through the health that you have remaining, and it just wasn't quite enough for Slave Knight to pull it back, as we did see just a little bit too clean of matches came out from the side of Snap there. But ladies and gentlemen, both of our contestants are looking to get them into the world here. As you do see, it looks like it is going to be Trina's coming out from the side of Slave Knight up against Snap here. So are Trina's better than Tree Spears? Well, I guess we'll find out from this match here. Both of our contestants are in their corner. They are ready to go. And ladies and gentlemen, in a 3, a 2, and a 1, Ale. There is the bolt in. The Beast Roar comes out immediately to try to punish out the Flask. It does manage to find 250 damage, and he's going to take his Flask instead of the Beast Roar there, and it does mean he's not going to be able to punish that Black Flame. So Trina's versus this in the set of this, it's the same thing. It's you know, he's looking at 2 hits to Poise Break against these Power Stance Straight Swords here, so he's got to be careful. But there's going to be the jumping L1 coming out again. There's the punish there. That is going to be some poise damage coming through, which means he will get a trade, but that's going to be some sleep building up there for the side of Snap here. Snap trying to get away, but he's 1 L1 away from sleep here. He's got to be careful. There it is. The jump attack's going to land. That's 2 more L1, 724. He's got to be careful. There's going to be the poise coming through. Great trades come through from the side, and that's going to be the Beast Roar coming there again. Oh my goodness, the poise counting from Snapcaster is too clean. He's able to find 2 or 3 poise breaks in that set before Slave Knight's able to even hit him. They're going to throw the L1 out from the Trinas, goes for the jump attack. Great strafing comes out from the side of Snapcaster there as he finds the poise breaks there and keeps it going. Forces Slave Knight back as he finds those little pokes. 200 damage comes in. It's going to be a tier reset, but he's 1 sleep away from dying here, but he's not going to let that happen. Great roll attack comes through, 432 damage, but he's going to find the trade there, 127, but that's going to be the sleep, and that could finish it out, and it's not quite going to. Oh no, Slave Knight is so low, but slow is that, and it's going to be the L1 from Slave Knight, and that's going to be a 1-1 reset against Snap here. So really, really good play comes out from Slave Knight there to understand the opponent. But again, Snapcaster just understands this thrusting sword so incredibly well. And, you know, he just missed up in terms of keeping track of that status. And that's one of the things, I mean, these players should have relatively even latency. You have to be aware of what that's going to actually do to you when you're going into this match here. And Snapcaster just miscalculated that a little bit, and it cost him to fall asleep 2 separate times, and unfortunately was not able to capitalize you know, when he was not in this area. So very, very important that he's able to keep track of that status and not let that build up so quickly. But it is a very difficult thing to get away from, especially if you weren't quite prepared from it, as Slave Knight just kind of came out with the Trinas there after realizing that Tree Spears perhaps wasn't going to be the play. But Snapcaster is playing really, really well with his poise counting here. But unfortunately, Slave Knight was just a little bit too clean in keeping track of status, which allows him to get that win. He takes all those trades because he knows that those will allow him to get damage in untraded and uncontested, which is going to be through that sleep status. So really good play, really good game knowledge comes out from Slave Knight there to actually pressure Snapcaster in this finals. This would be a 1-1. And ladies and gentlemen, remember, if Snapcaster does manage to find the victory here, that means that we're going to have to run this whole set back. So Slave Knight has some matches to mess around with. He has the ability to play around. It's getting late for him. I'm sure he doesn't want to do that, but we'll have to see exactly how it's going to play out here as these players are really pushing everything to the edge to try to clean this one out. But it's going to be a 1-1 reset, and we'll have to see how Slave Knight's going to pull this one back, or, you know, if he's going to keep that momentum and finish this one out here, or if Snapcaster is going to pull it back. Again, Snapcaster really needs to play off of Poise Break here. It's incredibly important that he does that, so we'll have to see how well he's going to do that. Looks like both of our contestants are in the world, ladies and gentlemen, so we are going to see Slave Knight cost up against Snapcaster here as they're working their way in to set this one out and just trying to get them to their respective corner right now so we can start this match out as clean as we can. And looks like we are getting them in the right corner here, and we'll be able to see this one underway. And here it is. We have Slave Knight costs on the left, Snapcaster on the right. Round 3 and 3, 2, 1, Ale. And there is going to be the bolt in. We do see the Flask coming out with the Boiled Prawn from the side of Snapcaster, the Black Flame protection with the Flask from the side of Slave Knight Cost. And you're going to see BFP Trinas. This is a really interesting build coming through here, but the DPS is going to favor Snapcaster. It's a matter of getting away from that. So he does actually opt to go for the Scarlet Rod. He's going to. So this means that he can trade Bolas for Bolas here. It's if you see a bolus coming out from the Scarlet Rot, you can just take a sleep. But actually doesn't do that. He's just hanging out. He gets some damage off the Beast Roar, and that's good enough for him. Great Beast Roar there, 240 damage right into the chest of Slave Knight. It's going to stop that L1 in motion. He goes for the jump attack. Good roll catch comes out, but great pressure coming back out from the side of Snapcaster here. So, he has those Trinas from the side of Slave Knight. Oh, Snapcaster is going to take that. He's going to need to be looking for a bolus, and he does manage to find it. One more L1's going to land throughout that. There's the Phantom right there, but finds the pressure, 340 into 460. Really trying to find this Scarlet Rot build up here. He's going to swap actually over to the Lightning here and just try to finish this one out. There's the Beast Roar there, trying to keep this pressure up. He's going to go right back over to, I believe that is Ansper right there. Maybe not. It isn't going to be the clean ride. It goes out the 2 running R2s there, goes for the R1, finds the back poke off that for 207 damage, able to get underneath the jump attack, goes for the crouch, actually swings it into the running attack instead. Good poke, and that trades in the beat. There's going to be the sleep, and that's going to finish it out 1346 in favor of Slave Knight cost there. Slave Knight's going to take this one in a 2-1. So that's going to put Snapcaster on the back foot here, and Snapcaster really needs to figure out how to handle these Trinas. He's playing far too aggressive into them, and it's allowing him to not manage this bolus well enough. That's the one thing that you have on low latency with the Trinas is it's a lot harder to get the sleep, but it's also equally as difficult to get that bolus off to prevent from that. And what Snapcaster needs to do is, if he's going to stay rot, he needs to trade that bolus with Slave Knight. So when he gets the rot proc, that means Slave Knight has the bolus. It means he boluses, he doesn't get sleep built up, and he wins the match off damage from there, even through the Black Flame protection. He's really not taking too many trades with how well he's counting the poise of Slave Knight here. So it's really interesting to see how this is going to play out. It's Snapcaster going to figure the way around these Trinas and work it through, or is Slave Knight just simply going to pull it together and find that last victory here? Again, you're looking at a 2-in-1 favor, Slave Knight over Snapcaster. Very, very important that they, very important that Snapcaster finds a way around this, as it's going to be a very tricky one for him if he does not. Looking at getting both of our contestants in now, ladies and gentlemen, it should be a very interesting match point. When our contestants are in, we have Slave Knight on the left. We have Snapcaster on the right. It is a match point against Snapcaster. He's going to have that clean rot up against those Trinas. Round 4 in 3, 2, 1. Ale. And here is our bolt in, immediately going for the Beast Roar. We are going to see a Flask traded. He's going to find the Beast Roar against the Black Flame protection, though. As 232 damage comes through, as the Trina's trying to find the pressure forward, immediately just running towards him. Great poise counting comes out from the side of Snapcaster there, but now he needs to get away. He can't afford to take too many of these hits. You did see he actually, I believe, used the Rotting Flesh to actually get that focus build up a little bit more. That's going to give him quite a bar that Slave Knight needs to work through here. So he's looking for a bolus, but Slave Knight reads that and is going to get him in his face. He's trying to find it for him here. He does a really good job feinting it out, goes for the running R2. Good roll against that jump attack there to get away from it without even a Phantom. As he's going to find 204 into 411 into 627. That little bit of pesty damage comes through. 204 into that Black Flame protection as well. That's a tier proc we see right there as we see the lightning damage come through, but to no avail, as the Snapcaster does need to find, and there he's going to go ahead. He's going to take his bolus, and that's a really good utilization of that. 430 damage, and now on the back foot is going to be the side of Slave Knight. He needs to find it. Oh, 77 damage off the Beast Roar. Is he going to find this? He keeps the pressure. There's that crouch attack. 50 more damage, and Snapcaster levels this one out and goes to a match point. And that's exactly what we were chatting about, ladies and gentlemen, is you got to find a way to get those boluses in and counteract that status. And you see it right there, how weak Trinas can be without that sleep. And Snapcaster gets away from the jump attack, spaces it out. He takes one jump attack to get a bolus in. That's a good trade when his health is where it's at, right? I mean, you're talking about 2 or 3 more hits. He's going to finish out Slave Knight there and does a really, really good job of pulling that back together. You see that crouch attack coming out the end. It's just so difficult to get away from that. I mean, you almost have to prediction roll it, and it's such a hard thing to predict against a good player, and Snapcaster able to pull that together really, really well. Again, I can't stress enough, the poise counting from Snapcaster is absolutely phenomenal here. And what I mean from that, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you at home that might not know what the term poise counting means, it means counting the attacks until poise break, which in this case is 2 attacks. Snapcaster has to land 2 attacks to break the poise of Slave Knight, and he's doing a really good job of only taking that second hit when he knows it's a poise break. And if he gets the poise break, he goes ahead and gets a hit and gets away, so he doesn't take any of those poise trades, because again, he doesn't have the damage to counteract the sleep that Slave Knight can do here, so, or rather the damage that Slave Knight can deal in sleep. So it's really, really important that Snapcaster does that, and he's just showcasing it so well. So we are getting both of our contestants back in here, ladies and gentlemen. we will have Slave Knight Koss versus Snapcaster. And very interesting, it looks like Slave Knight's going to go back onto the Tree Spears. So he messed around with the Trinas. He got his couple wins. Snapcaster figured it out and was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not really worried about the Trinas anymore. Pretty clearly wins that one to get back to 2-2. And Slave Knight's going back to the roots, going back to the Tree Spears, which, you know, had worked out for him in the past. You have to remember, in the semifinals, a best of 5, Snapcaster did lose out Slave Knight Koss with Slave Knight on those Tree Spears. So it's one of those things that, you know, I think it is a good pick from Slave Knight here. I've never really been a fan of Trinas in general, other than maybe one quick round to try to get a win. Hey! Sleep is pretty easy to get around, as Snapcaster did show in that last set. It just took him a few sets to get there, but looks like both of our contestants are working their way to their corner, and we'll be able to see this one underway. And ladies and gentlemen, we do have Snapcaster on the right, 2-2, Slave Knight on the left. Our match point, our round 5 in 3, 2, 1, Ale. There is the bolt in. The Beast Roar comes out. We are going to see the Flask coming through there for 201 damage on the side of Slave Knight, and he is going to eat another Beast Roar for 279. Does he chain that into itself? He doesn't. Is the side of Snapcaster. So Snapcaster now trying to figure this one out as the Beast Roar comes out again, and Slave Knight needs to figure a way to negate all that damage that happened through the casting of buffs, and now needs to figure a way. But to be fair, he does have the Tree Spears here, and Tree Spears are going to be quite strong. Goes for the jump attack and able to land that. That poke attack is going to be some damage. They're good. Poise Break, 190 damage, 278 as well there from the side of Snapcaster. So again, we talk about that poise counting. It's the same thing, ladies and gentlemen. 2 hits to Poise Break here. 651 is the damage, but there's going to be 534 from the side of Slave Knight. Oh, goes for the Beast Roar, but Slave Knight's going to land that one. It's going to be utilizing that Swaddling Cloth, and there's going to be the poke. The trade's still in favor of Slave Knight here. The jump attack's going to find him, and that's going to be it! Slave Knight cleans it up, ladies and gentlemen. He is our October Major Champion in a 3-2 victory over Snapcaster. Slave Knight played that one very, very well. You see those poise breaks coming out from Snapcaster. Slave was able to play around that near the end and really just pulled that one together exceptionally well. So again, has done a great job throughout this tournament and has made his way all the way through the leaderboard to get to #1 and has held that position through this tournament, ladies and gentlemen. He did not lose an entire match. In fact, he only lost 3 rounds. All 3 of them were to Snapcaster, 1 in the semis, 2 in the finals, and able to pull it together for a 3-2 victory on the day against Slave Knight Koss, our #1, our champion for this event.